spend the next couple hours sharing this amazing world with you. So we'll see you in just a couple minutes. Take care. Hello, 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 my friends. Welcome to Face Reading Secrets Revealed. I'm your host, Dr. David Snyder. I want to welcome each and every one of you to what I think is one of the most amazing, cool, and practical skill sets I've ever had the privilege to learn. It has been the gateway to so many discoveries and so many insights and understandings into human beings. And I'm really excited to be able to share the next few hours with you. Now, in case you missed my pregame warm-up, first thing I want to share with you is, again, if you're used to the classic 1 hour or 90-minute webinar, that is not what's happening here today. The process we use in Planet David is what is known as a free-form webinar. It comes in 3 parts. First part is foundations. Some of the real coolest stuff, the most powerful stuff, the stuff you can take out into the world and use right away, that lays the foundations for even more powerful stuff in part 3 of the webinar. Part 2 of the webinar is going to be where I teach you how to level up. A package and a set of training programs that we've put together that we're going to give you the opportunity to participate in if that's something you want to do. The third part of the webinar is where we're going to circle back to what we started teaching. We're going to teach more that builds on part 1 of the webinar. So I highly encourage you, if this is your first time in Planet David, there's a few things I want to get out of the way really, really quickly. First and foremost, if this is your first time in Planet David, I need you to type your name and where you're checking in from into the chat box. And if you know off the top of your head, what is it you most want to be able to do as a result of the content you're going to be exposed to and learning in tonight's webinar? If you could take it, if there was one thing that you could be able to do as a result of following the instructions and getting the material in this webinar, what would it be? Just go ahead and type it in the chat. And trust me, I do look at those things. Right now I won't have time to look at every single thing, but the reason that I ask this is because I want you to begin to automatically start thinking about how you can use this material to better benefit your life. Okay, so that's the first thing. If you are a veteran of Planet David, if you've been bebopping around Planet David for 6 months or longer, and have actually used the content or the techniques in our systems and have gotten powerful results, I need you to type your name, how long you've been in Planet David, and where you're checking in from. The reason is, like I said before, you're going to have questions. And that's okay. I love questions. And if you were in my live event, I would spend hours answering your questions because you did the one thing that most people won't do. They won't get off their butt and show up. And that's okay, right? Here we have to be a little bit more disciplined. We have to be a little bit on track. So there's 3 ways that you can get your questions answered today. First, type it in the chat. And if I see it and it's relevant to where we are in the webinar, I'll answer it. I have no problem with that. If it's not relevant, I may decide not to answer it. But if you feel that I just might have missed it and it is relevant to where we're at, keep typing it in the chat. Now, That's my judgment call. However, those of you who are veterans of Planet David, if you've been around 5, 6, 7 months, a year, 10 years, some of you have been with me 15, 16 years, right? Back when I was teaching classes of 6 people in a little community center somewhere, right? If you have experience and an answer to the question you see that the new people are asking in the chat, please feel free to reach out to them and answer those questions. Now, you guys expect, I'm the guy on the webinar, you expect me to have an agenda, right? But the people who've been coming back and using these techniques and these technologies for years and years, the only agenda they have is to learn more stuff, and they want to help. And that's what's cool about the community in Planet David. So the third way to get your question answered is obviously when the replay for this video becomes active, which there may be a little bit of a delay because apparently the mute button wasn't quite working, and I was playing my pre-game music, and some of the copyrighted music I was playing may have get picked up by YouTube's filters and put me in timeout until I edit that part out. So I don't know if it's going to be immediate, but check back as soon as you can. And then what I do is for every new piece of content that I put out, I make it a practice to go back over that content in the comment section in those contents for several weeks afterwards, making sure I answer the questions, making sure that there's no spam and anything that's going to take away from your learning or whatever. If I can answer the question, I'll type your answer right in there. If I can't answer it, I'll tell you that too, and I'll point you in the direction of where I think you should look to get that information and that answer that you're looking for. So, that being said, here's my standard disclaimer. If politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offends you, this is probably not the best use of your next 2 or 3 hours. Okay? However, if you are looking to gain deeper insight into people, how to help people, help yourself, and really become a more fully functional, self-actualizing person and move towards the very best version of yourself, this is probably going to be some of the best hours you spend. Now, you're going to need a pen, you're going to need some paper. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to share with you. Now, a lot of the graphics that I'm going to be sharing with you are copywritten, but you can find them in the book that I use in my classes, which is Face Reading in Chinese Medicine by Lillian Pearl Bridges. She was my face reading teacher, and even though she passed on last year, her book will be and will continue to be the required textbook for all of my trainings going forward, whether they're classical or whether they're focused on specific applications. That being said, if this is the scope of everything that there is to learn about face reading, even with 3 hours, we have time for this. So my personal commitment to you is I will teach you as much as I can in the next 2 or 3 hours. I will take you as far down the face reading rabbit hole as humanly possible, and I will show you where to go for more. Is that fair trade? If you think that's fair, go ahead and type that in the chat. Okay, cool, excellent. All right, so let me go ahead and lock into my standard presentation. The question that a lot of people ask, especially if you're new, is who the heck is Dr. David and why should I care? First of all, I am in fact a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. I have a doctorate from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. Let me see if I can find my PowerPoint really quick here, because I think somehow or another it got minimized or something. Oh, there it is. Behind all my other windows. Hold on a second. Let me do this for you. Okay. So who the heck is Dr. David? Why should I care? First and foremost, I am in fact a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I'm also currently working on my doctorate certificate in Chinese energetic medicine, which is the equivalent of being a Qigong doctor. So I'm learning tremendous amounts of stuff that are confirming everything we've been doing clinically for the last 15 years. And I've had an operating clinic in Solana Beach, California with my partner, Dr. Don Liu, since 2005, where we've specialized, specifically me, in treating physiological illness that is rooted in repressed emotion. So while many people with a background in hypnosis or NLP, they'll treat things like weight loss or smoke cessation, nail biting, things of that nature, the clients I tended to get were usually suffering from very, very prolonged, deep, chronic, and often terminal illness. And so what we had to do was we had to figure out a way to access those repressed emotions and help them to release them. And in the process of doing that, we discovered so many things about human behavior, how people think and create their own emotions and manifest their own illnesses, that it really started to significantly change the way I taught my other classes, which was all about influence. And that's what brings us to our next step. In 2020, for those of you who don't know, I've authored over 15 different products on various forms of human influence. I kind of make a little play on words. If you look at this, this is a copy of my Global Gurus bio. And this is where I was named the #1 NLP Trainer of the Year by globalgurus.org in 2020, and I've been in the top 2 for the last 5 or 6 years. And so I consider myself a specialist in human influence technologies, and that technology can be used for anything from attraction and dating to healing terminal and chronic illness. Anything that allows people to exert and take more control of their lives is a technology that I wholeheartedly embrace and do my best to help people learn and optimize. But this is, again, I was recognized in 2020 as the #1 NLP Trainer of the Year. This is a copy of a letter from Global Gurus. We've actually got one for 2022 as well, but this is the one from 2020. And it says, "Dear Dr. David, it's a great pleasure to announce that your training program, Killer Influence, has been chosen by global peers and ranked as the #1 best program in the world for neurolinguistic programming, aka NLP." And if you look, here is actually a copy of that page. Now, why am I talking about NLP? Because NLP was actually my first introduction to the art, science, and study of human behavior. It was my approach to learning about this thing about being able to watch a person's subtle eye movements, eyelid fluttering, facial colorations, things of that nature, that told me that the body is always answering before the mouth speaks. And when you understand that, a lot of what I'm going to teach you over the next 2 or 3 hours is going to fall into context. Because when people talk about face reading, they often think about microexpressions, which was discovered by a guy named Dr. Paul Ekman, and we're going to touch on that throughout the course of this webinar. But some other things I'd like you to know is I'm also a 10th degree black belt in an art called Ryukyu Kempo Karate. I have a 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kun Tao, a 2nd degree black belt in Kosho Kempo Ryu, 1st degree black belt in Fankuru Jiu Jitsu. I'm also a certified instructor in Combat Sistema, Cinco Mano Eskrima, Modern Arnis. My energy credentials will not fit on the slide, so I just stopped at Qigong. But I've been a Reiki master since the early 90s, since before Reiki was cool. I've been a practicing Kabbalist since before Madonna ever heard of Kabbalah. So I'm very much a pre-Madonna. I'm also certified in advanced pranic healing and psychotherapy, advanced DNA. I'm certified in the Bankston healing system and many different forms of Qigong, including Chinese energetic medicine, which is how to prescribe certain Qigong energies for certain elements and maladies and things like that. So when people hear me go through this laundry list and they hear me talk about all these different things I've done, the first thing that a lot of people, the second thing actually, the first thing they ask is what all these things have in common. And that's pattern recognition. You see, everything that human beings do has a structure. Everything that human beings do follows a sequence of events and effects. And if you understand how to recognize those patterns, then human beings and the universe around you actually becomes very predictable. What does that have to do with reading faces? Well, pretty much everything. Because human beings, when they process emotions, process them in a very similar way, and they store them in very similar locations that can be seen on the face. And so by understanding the topography of the face, and that understanding is based on a structure and a set of patterns that the Chinese have spent literally almost 3,000 years or longer studying. And I found it to be consistent from human being to human being to human being. The nice thing is, thanks to things like artificial intelligence, big data, things like that, a lot of the discoveries about subtle facial cues and markings that were in these old systems are now actually starting to become verified. Especially in regards to narcissistic behavior, things of that nature. Obviously, talking about those studies is going to take us way far afield than we might want to go, but they are out there. And it's pretty cool that more and more studies are coming out about how markings and the topography of the skull and the face can significantly predict emotional behavior, temperament, things of that nature. So, is this the right place for you? Now, yeah, obviously face reading is very interesting, but what can you really do with it? So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and if you can answer, if any of these apply to you, then go ahead and type "that's for me" or "that's me" or "I want that" in the chat, and we'll go from there. How many of you would like to be the most fascinating person in a room? When you walk in, how would it be if you had every person in the room lining up to talk to you and finding you super attractive and often irresistible? Would that be useful? Face reading will let you do that. On the flip side of that, what if you had an early warning system that when someone approached you with amorous intention, you could look at their face and little red lights and flashing bells would go on and say, "Oh, hell no." Would that be a useful skill to have? Okay, that is also what some of this will help you to do. Would you like to be able to banish fear and insecurity from your life and radiate confidence and assertiveness and power wherever you go? Would you like to literally have people hanging on your every word? Would that be something you'd enjoy? Okay, then you're in the right place. Would you like to be more successful in your business pursuits? Make more money at work, get a job promotion, build better teams, close more sales? Would that be something that would be helpful? Face reading will help you do that in spades. All right, and I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to protect yourself from potentially manipulative people, face reading can give you some early warning signs that can significantly lower your casualty rate when it comes to getting into bad situations or relationships. Like I said, prior to, my go-to technique for personality profiling for many years was handwriting analysis. But because we don't handwrite anymore, it became less and less relevant. It was harder and harder to get copies of their handwriting. When I discovered face reading, it's like the whole universe just opened up. So there's a tremendous amount of power that goes with this. Would you like to be able to give here's again, we won't be covering it in this webinar directly, but I will touch on it. What if you could actually get up every morning, look at yourself in the mirror, and know the state of your organs in your physical well-being? What if you could actually look at your face, certain areas, and actually know what's going on, where you need more energy, where you're working too hard, where all those things? Would that be useful? Face reading was actually derived from that practice. So literally, everything from the state of your internal organs to your spiritual level of integration can be seen through the face. But everything we're going to be teaching you here today is all about practicality. It's all about things that we need to live in a society. So again, let me see if there's anything else on my list of this is for you if stuff. Well, there's lots of other things we could go through, but how many of you answered at least 3 or more things? Show of hands, just type "me" in the chat. How many of you had 3 or more things that you wanted when I started going down that list? All right. You guys want to stay and pay real close attention. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint really quick. So here's the deal. If you hang out with me and you stay with me until the end of this webinar, here's my personal promise to you. I will teach you the most powerful and effective way to read and understand yourself and other human beings in the shortest amount of time possible. I will teach you how to understand, by looking at the face, how to elicit a profile that gives you a baseline of a person's personality and their temperament. I will show you how to look at their face and know where they're holding on to traumatic memories and events and histories. I will teach you how to gauge people for their sexual and romantic compatibility, how to read personality and temperament, and ultimately how to become a master of people reading and human influence. Remember, reading people is one thing, but if you don't know what to do when you read them, you're kind of stuck. But the other thing is also true. Being able to influence people is good, but if you don't have the ability to look at somebody and determine if they're moving towards what you want them to do or away from what you want them to do, you're kind of flying blind. So the best approach is to have both. And that's what we're going to do. So here's what we're going to do today. Before we jump into our first big piece, I want you to take a moment and make sure you have something to write on, something to write with. I would also like you to make sure that, while I know a lot of you like to type, let me jump out of this real quick. I know a lot of you like to type things on your keyboard, and that's fine. But what I've discovered through my studies with graphoanalysis and graphotherapy is that when you physically write these things out, they impact your system much more deeply. So I'm going to recommend, and again, it's your choice. I'm not the note-taking cop, but I want you to physically write these things out for me. Okay, we're going to do a couple of drills that kind of prime your neurology to really tap into this material and use it. But what I want you to do right now for the first part of that drill is I want you to actually go back to that exercise I had you start with at the beginning of the webinar. If you could take away one or two things that would get you what you want from this webinar, and you use those things, and you got it, what would that be? Right? So the first thing is type that in the chat for my records. The second thing is write it on the piece of paper in front of you. We're going to do a drill together. I do this with every webinar, and whether it's an influence webinar, webinars on how to reprogram your subconscious mind, and especially these kinds of drills or these kinds of content. What we want to do is we want to get your unconscious mind and your neurology emotionally fired up and wired to do and practice these materials. So this drill is going to help you do that. So write down what you want to be able to do. Once you do that, look at that, read it to yourself out loud, close your eyes, and imagine you now have that ability. And I want you to write down the answer to this question. What's important about that? Whatever comes up, first impression, use the exact words. Not in the chat box, write it on your paper. What's important about that? If you got those core techniques that would allow you to do, like some people are asking about how to pick up deception. Okay? Let's say you got that. All right? Now you've got the ability to pick up deception. What's important about that? Write that answer on the sheet in front of you. Whatever it is. I'm not going to ask you to type it in. I just want you to notate it because I want you to experience something powerful. Right? And because this is actually one of the ways that you get people fired up to do whatever you want them to do. All right? Now, as you look at the answer, so you ask, like using the lie detection example. So I now know how to detect deception. What's important about that? Maybe it's I feel safe now, or I feel more confident. Whatever it is, you wrote it down, right? Now ask yourself the question about the answer. What's important about that? So you've learned how to detect deception. Now you feel safe and confident. What's important about feeling safe and confident? Write the answer to that question below this first answer. And notice what you feel as you hear that answer in your mind and you write it down. This is going to help me avoid narcs. Very good. So Carrie's saying very happy, balanced, powerful. Now, using Carrie's example, now that you've got the ability to detect deception, you feel safe and confident, you feel happy, balanced, and powerful. Ultimately, what does that do for you? Hector says the ability to sell constantly. What's important about being able to sell consistently, Hector? Write those answers down. So you should have 3 basic answers to the what's important about question. If you've done all 3, type done in the chat. I'll wait. Good. Very good. Perfect. Okay. Now, here's what I want you to do. Let me kind of model this for you. Take your notes. Stand up. If you're driving, don't do this. If you're driving or operating heavy equipment, don't do this while the car is moving or in drive or anything like that. Right? All right? So I want you to just look at the answers to the 3 answers to your question. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to read them out loud 5 times. Just stand up, read them out loud. Before you read them, take an inventory of how you feel inside. Okay? Stand up, look at your answers, read them out loud 5 times as strongly as you can. And when you're done, type done in the chat. Go ahead and do that now. Go. Carol's done. Good. Danielle says done. Delia's done. Do the exercise, guys. Come on. Elaine says done. Perfect. Beth says done on YouTube. Great. Excellent. As you continue. Now, take a minute. Type in the chat what changed in your body when you read those answers out loud. What changed in your body? Felt stronger, stood taller, felt powerful. My back came up with joy. Perfect. You just learned the most important thing about getting humans to want to do what you want them to do. Everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. Those feelings are triggered by certain parameters. And when you can effectively elicit those emotional triggers and link them to what you want them to do, people will desire whatever you offer. Now, I'm teaching you this so that you can motivate yourself. Anytime you're bothered by procrastination, anytime you see this Herculean number of things you got to do, all you got to do is remember, stop focusing on the task and what it's going to do for you, what it's going to get you. Does that make sense? And the way you do that is by imagining you have the outcome and asking yourself these very simple questions. What's important about? And write the answer. You guys notice when you read those things out loud, you got really excited, or you got this your neurology just kind of woke up? Yes or true or not true? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Okay, good. All right. That being said, I want you to take those feelings and the outcomes that they and link them to everything I'm going to teach and tell you to do in this webinar. Because first thing we're going to talk about, and by the way, the name of what you just did is called the Emotional Motivation Checklist. Okay? Once you understand that simple what's important about question, 3 levels deep, and you use their exact words, people will automatically want to do what you want them to do. It's crazy how it works. But you can also use it on yourself, and that's what this webinar is about. Does that make sense? This will give you such insight into how you move through the world and your sense of what's desirable and what isn't. It also teaches you, if you really get Machiavellian, it teaches you how to make people you don't want in your life to go away. Okay? So that being said, since we're on this idea of motivation and getting people to do what you want them to do, let's talk about the first aspect that when I started studying face reading, I found to be the most nuclear. And that was how people actually make decisions. What if let me preface this with a question. What if the 3 questions, Dave, are just what's important about 1, what's important about 2, what's important about 3. That's it. What do you want? What's it going to do for you? What's important about? And just go down 3 levels deep. I've got my volume pretty much maxed out, Bill, so I think it's probably on your end. That being said, so when we look at the face, if you could look at somebody and know exactly what kind of information to give them so that they would be most likely to process that data in the way that's useful for them to most easily do what you want them to do, would that be helpful? Like if you could look at somebody and know that they need all the facts and figures and science, and look at one other person said, if you give and know, actually look at them, if you gave them the facts and figures and science, that they would be bored off their ass and just say no out of default. That's where we're going first. Remember, what I'm giving you is a very clean, linear distillation of the many, many aspects of face reading that I learned, focused on the one aspect that you're all here for, understanding yourself, but also influencing yourself and others. And so the first thing we want to look at is what we call the 3 zones of the face. The first zone, which is from the eyebrow to the top of the head, is known as your data-driven zone or your mental zone. Right? I'm going to show you a diagram in just a minute. People who have I'm a perfect example. This is why I'm showing it to you. If you look at my face from the profile, you can see that I have a very, very, very high, very, very large upper zone. This is somebody who is a data collector. My good friend and business partner, Brandon, who's actually in the background operating this webinar, he's a textbook data-driven person. Every time I ask him a question, he answers me with a spreadsheet. Okay, so if you see people with very, very high, very, very deep foreheads like this, and you come at them with all the reasons why they're going to love it, how much they're going to love it, but you don't supply any data to support it, they're going to say, yeah, whatever. Show me the research, right? So, middle zone are all about pragmatic people with a larger middle zone, and we'll dive deeper into this. The zone is from the eyebrow to the base of the nose, right at the philtrum here. People with a much larger, in proportion to each other. If you have a much higher upper zone or the zone here is bigger. These people are pragmatists. These people, they want to know a basic question. What's it going to do for me? What's it going to let me do? How's it going to make my life easier? Right? If you look at the three zones, and the third zone extends from the base of the nose to the chin. If you look at these three zones and you see one is obviously bigger, that's their lead system. That's the one you lead with. Right? Great way to test this is, how many of you live anywhere near a tech campus, like a Qualcomm or a Google or an Apple or something where a lot of tech-oriented people, sciencey people hang out? Go to that campus at lunchtime and look at the foreheads. You will see this preponderance of high foreheaded humans. Okay? Now, next lunchtime, go to an MMA gym or a fitness center or places where triathletes hang out and look at the jaws. You will see a significant, a certain body type will emerge that dictates what activities people tend to gravitate towards. Now, that doesn't mean that people with big jaws can't have a strong data side. It doesn't mean people with a strong data side can't have a strong physical side. But you will see, I'm going to name them, Danielle, I'm going to name them all in just a moment. But you will see, as you look at the different zones, you will see a sequence. And we're going to talk about how to use that sequence in just a moment. Has what I've taught you been useful so far? If you think it's been useful, type it in the chat. Yes, that's me. I'm cool with that. All right. So before we get into the data side of things, how many of you would like to be up to 30% better at everything you do? Anybody? Okay, excellent. Here's how you do it. All you need to do is take on and maintain a fun, playful, curious attitude as you move through the world, and you will be up to 30% better at everything you do. And that particular statistic comes from research from a very, very easygoing, very, very laid-back profession where nothing's at risk. It's called hostage negotiation. Yes, I said I was being facetious. What the FBI researchers discovered was that when the hostage negotiator entered into those interactions with the hostage taker, and they had a laid-back, easygoing, playful energy, almost a playful energy. I don't know how playful you could be in a hostage situation. What they did discover was that the negotiator was up to 30%, 31%, if I remember Voss correctly, 31% more aware, 31% more adaptable, 31% more intelligent, made better decisions. But the best part, I think, if that wasn't good enough, the best part was their counterpart, the hostage taker, was actually up to 30 to 31% more compliant. Is that useful? Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm just quoting stats and statistics, but here's this thing: you have to train that, right? A lot of I can say it, you just be fun and playful, but it's a skill set. You have to train it. And we teach you that in our classes, but I want you to wrap that attitude around this information and play in your mind all the different ways that you could use it. Because the more you play with it in your mind, the more rapidly you'll start to actually use it out in the field. And that's the other thing I want to share with you before we jump into the deep data. The fastest way to learn none of this is to try to learn all of it. So focus on the things that come super easy, super fast. Take them out into the world and play with it, master it, come back, add another piece. That's how you do it. So let's look at decisions once again. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So what you're seeing here is what I just described. There are three basic zones. Your upper zone is known as your mental area. Please ignore the little heaven and earth things. That's for people who are trained in Chinese medicine. It really has no relevance to anybody who is not a practitioner. So we try to make this a little bit more linear. right? So people with a very high forehead are very, very data driven, right? So you want to present the facts, the figures, the research to them, and then follow up with the other two zones. A larger middle zone indicates somebody, like I said before, who is very pragmatic. And the question they want answered is, what is it going to do for me? Right? And you want to be able to answer that question. And again, if you see that that particular part of their face is the biggest compared to the other three, that's what you want to lead with. And so what I'm saying is everybody has a data side. Everybody has a pragmatic side. Everybody has an emotional or instinctive side. And once again, just to kind of close this loop, if you see that their jaw is the biggest, from the base of the nose to the chin line, is much more prominent, the biggest part of their face in proportion to the other three, then you always lead with the emotions of how much they're going to love it, how much they're going to be grateful that they did this. And then you look at the other two zones. And based on the relative sizes of those zones, you present your information. So let's do a couple examples. So we'll call this is zone 1. This is zone 2. This is zone 3. So let's say that I look at somebody and the first thing I notice is they have a huge upper zone. So their head kind of looks like this. Right? So if this is the upper zone, this is our 1, this is our 2, this is our 3. When I look at this person, this tells me that the first thing I have to do is give them the data and then explain what it'll do for them and then tell them how much they're going to love it. But what if I see the opposite? What if they have a big lower zone, slightly smaller middle zone? This would be a very weird shaped head, but I have seen them. So this is obviously bigger. This tells me I lead with how much they're going to love it, what it'll do for them, and then the data that supports it. So what this gives you is a sequence of presentation. Okay? It's just like in the old NLP world, they would say people are either towards or away from. Well, that's not actually true. They're both. It's just a question of which one do they do first. When we start looking at the zones of the face, that's what we want to look at. Right? Where are they dominant? What's second? What's third? And how do I rearrange the information that I'm going to present so that they're more likely to do what I want them to do? So in this case, 3, 1, 2, that would look like this. So 3, big lower zone, big upper zone, smaller middle zone, right? These people, once again, you got to tell them how much they love it, give them the data to support it, and what it'll do for them, right? So it's the same data sets, just different sequences, right? And then of course you can extrapolate 2, 1, 3, right? So in a 2, 1, 3, this would be your first one, and this would be the second one, this would be the third one. Shirley's asking, what if all three are the same size? Great question. A lot of times the differences between the relative sizes, let me go back to facing you. A lot of times the differences in the relative sizes of the face are so minute, they're very hard to tell. If you got up there and used like a straight edge or something, you could probably find minute differences. What you're going to see many times is that these people often have a hard time making a decision because there's different parts of them are so in balance with each other that they have the same gravitas, they have the same weight to them. My approach is, because I teach influence, I pay attention to the words that they use. I use the words that come out of their mouth, which will almost always hit their processing sequence. But I almost always start with what it's going to do for them. Because at the end of the day, human beings are looking to solve problems. If you look at the neuroscience of how we process emotions, positive and negative events being equal, your nervous system assigns a gravity of 4 to a negative experience and a gravity of 1 to a positive experience. So by default, your neurology is trying to get away from things or to fix things because it has more energy to it. Because of that, I will tend to go with the pragmatic side. If I can't accurately judge the zones, I'm going to go with pragmatics, because as I go with, and again, if I remember the emotional motivation checklist, that's going to be your gold right there, because you don't need face reading if you have that. But if you have both, one can be used to confirm the other. But I start with what it's going to do for them, right? The what's important about question usually taps into the pragmatic side, and it also taps into the emotional side. And so you're never going to go wrong with that. Most people will run screaming from data unless they have a naturally high forehead. So I would lead with either the emotion or the pragmatic side, tap into their emotional motivation checklist, and see where that takes you. You're never going to go wrong using the emotional motivation checklist. Does that make sense? Natalie says, if I put different zones into practice, exit leading with my emotions over data, can my face change over time? Yes. What you will discover as you get deeper and deeper into the art from a Chinese medical perspective is that as your emotional makeup and emotional health changes, as your values shift, as your lifestyle changes, the relationships that you have change, your face will change also. Matter of fact, many of my face reading students, when they're going through certification, one of the first things I tell them is that when you unpack a person's emotional feature and you release the emotion that it's signaling, right, many times right before your eyes, that feature will change. The wrinkles will disappear, the foreheads will get higher, eyebrows will pop out, and just like me, the first time that I heard Lillian say this is that, yeah, the face will change right in front of you, and I was sitting in the back of the room going, bullshit! And then I got into a face reading class, and Lillian, at the end of the class, Lillian would bring in people right off the street. And as a fledgling face reader, you had to sit down and they would take a before picture, right? And it would be the same wall, same lighting. And then you'd do the face reading, and then they'd have an after picture, same lighting, same wall, except you could never get the smile off their face afterwards. And after everybody went home, Lillian would put the pictures right beside each other on the screen, and they were different faces. And I was like, holy crap. That, you know, it's one of those things where until you see it, it's just not real. But when you start doing this and you actually help people start resolving their emotional stuff, which we're going to talk a lot about emotions in this training today. That's one of the most useful things I found. Aside from the decision making and the data-driven processes, I found the emotional map of the face to be the most immediately useful for both persuasion and influence, as well as therapy, because I'm a healer, you know, by trade. And so that's what we're going to play with. Would you guys like to learn more about how to see emotions on the face? Yes or yes? Okay, hold on a second. I've got way too many messages in chat. Okay, very good. All right, any questions about the 3 zones? Yes or no? If you have them, now's a good time to ask. Okay, the eyes. Nope. Hold on. Okay. Jeffrey's asking, how do you overcome a suspended? Actually, Jeffrey, if you look in, I think you asked this question earlier, and I actually answered it before the webinar started. It's in the chats. I answered you by text. But the bottom line is you got to clean up your shit. But the nice thing about learning how to look and read the emotions of the face is everywhere you go, you will see people's shit. No pun intended. You will see all the things that they're repressing. You will see the joys, the sadnesses, the fears, the suspicions. They all mark in different regions of the face. And we all have them. So one of the things, before we get into the emotions, I want to just caution you a little bit. Once you really internalize this map and you start applying it, a lot of it you can't unsee. It's hard to turn it off. So when you start looking at people and you start seeing their sadnesses and their griefs and things of that nature, please be very, very, very respectful of what you're seeing and how you use that information. Okay? Face reading, if in the hands of the unscrupulous, can give you tremendous psychological levers with people. It can also give you the magical keys to heal those people at the deepest level. And it's really up to you to decide which direction you want to go with it, you know. But, you know, don't walk up to people and say, oh, I can see you've been harboring 20 years of grief and sadness. Look at that line. Well, don't do that, right? If people don't ask, don't tell, right? And when you tell, always try to be compassionate in how you relay that information. Soften everything you do, right? And we cover this extensively in the live trainings, but I know a lot of you won't be at the live trainings. I hope a lot of you will be at the live trainings, so you can really get the full magnitude of this information. But please remember, this is real shit. Okay? And if you start unpacking people and you say things in the wrong way, they're going to armor up, and you will break rapport. If you do it right, they will open up like a flower to you, especially if you're using Echo Technique and the Emotional Motivation Checklist. You can pretty much write your ticket with these people if you do it right and leave them feeling amazing for having interacted with you. But do it wrong and you could hurt them. So again, it's really up to you. I'm not a persuasion cop. The karma is yours. So let me go back to the emotional map of the face. And we'll work on the emotions until it's time till about 5 o'clock or 5:15. We'll work on the emotions. Then I'm going to share with you a package I put together for you. And once we're done talking about the package and how to get yours, we'll circle back. We'll pick up with the emotions of the face, and then we'll go into some of the other aspects like matchmaking, sexual compatibility, things of that nature in part 3 of the webinar. Does that sound like a plan? If you think if you're cool with that, just type "let's go" in the chat. Okay, I can't see anybody. Apparently it's, I got 37 people. All right, we're good to go. All right, so let's go ahead. Let me go back to sharing my screen. And we're going to go with emotions. And again, one of the things I always try to do is I try to make things more digestible, more user-friendly. And a lot of the things that I learned early on in my career in face reading weren't directly applicable, but every now and then I would come across one of those solid gold radioactive charts that held so much promise, and this is one of them. The decision map was the first one. This is the other one I want you to focus on. Now, this is what we call the emotional map of the face. And one of the things I want you to understand that these are symmetrical. So even though you see, one set of emotions over here, you can also have them over here. Right? With very few exceptions, primarily that being the center line of the face, right in here. You can have joy lines on the right or the left side. Okay? So we're going to do this in groups of 5 so you can kind of track it and assimilate it. What I've found is that when you do groups of 5, people get it faster. Okay. So the first 5 we're going to work with, we're going to start at the 1 o'clock position and work down to the 12 o'clock position. First one we're going to talk about is skepticism. Skepticism can be seen by a line above the eyebrow. It usually starts at about the halfway point and follows the contour of the eyebrow. So people with this kind of a line above their eye are very, very, they don't take anything at face value. They're not necessarily bullshit detectors. We'll talk about a trait that actually indicates that. These people just, as by default, they just don't believe you. They want proof. If you see a high forehead and this, you're probably looking at a lawyer. I'm teasing. Not really. You're looking at people who are probably in a situation or circumstance where they're presented with a lot of snake oil, and people are always misrepresenting things. So the skepticism line is something, if I'm working with somebody and I want to influence them and I see that line, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trigger their skepticism. And basically what I'm going to say is, you're probably not going to believe what I'm about to say, But I'll show you the proof, right? So this is, again, skepticism. Now, going to immediately to the right, down to the 2 o'clock position, you have a line that extends from the corner of the eyebrow, and it moves upward. This is joy. These are the proverbial crow's feet. If we're talking about micro expressions, you would see these lines crinkle when you're giving somebody an authentic, joyful smile. If these lines are present and they're not always smiling, this is someone who's had a lot of joyful experiences in their life. These are positive signs. Now, starting once again at the base, at the outer canthus, you'll see sadness, sorrow, and grief. These are all the same emotion, but what we're actually looking at is how superficial and how long the emotion has been there. So when we go through a loss, we'll experience sadness. If we don't fully process that sadness, if we stuff it down or we try to ignore it, it eventually starts to get other events piled on top of it, and the line starts to grow. We call this a sorrow line. Okay, this is stuff that this is unresolved grief, and it's usually very, very old, or it's older. It's not what we call an acute situation. What we're looking now is an accumulation of repressed or unresolved sadness, loss, things of that nature. If that continues to go on for a long enough period of time, those lines will start to creep down the face. And you'll see what we call a grief line. All of these deal with some degree of sadness and loss. Now that's important to know. How many of you, let me jump out of my screen really quick. How many of you, by a show of hands, are some kind of coach or therapist? Or not by show of hands, but just type in the chat if you're a therapist or do some kind of coaching work or health professional. All right, one of the things that you're going to see or you're going to experience, many of the people that will present with chronic health problems, chronic lung problems, things like emphysema, COPD, asthma, allergies. When you start to unpack the emotions, it's always grief. It's always some kind of unresolved loss. Okay? So conversely, many times when these people stuff that emotion, they'll develop lung problems. Right? And as they're releasing it, there's a very distinctive breathing pattern that they go through. It goes, right? So there's an energy of grief that has been stuffed down and congregates in the lung meridians and the lung organ. And over time, it builds up a critical mass, and it marks on the face, and it represents as lung problems. Now, for those of you who have an interest in health and diagnosis, I'm going to share another graphic with you really, really quick. So, this is what your face looks to a Chinese face reading practitioner. So remember that we talked about the lungs, or the sadness starts here, the corner of the eye, and it passes down. Do you notice where it's passing through? It passes through the lung area of the face. Now, there's one more line that passes through the lung area that I try to loop these together. So everything we talked about started at the eyebrow. This is skepticism. This was joy. I'm sorry, that wasn't joy. I don't normally show this map, so. So joy is here. Then you have sadness, sorrow, or grief and sorrow. There's a line, if you see a line extending from the inner canthus, and I've seen it go two different ways. It can come this way and meander down through that cheekbone, or a lot of times it will come across and then come down. What you're looking at is what we call a lost love line. So that line is right here. Right? Now, let me explain this line to you a little bit. When you see a lost love line, and I saw it a lot clinically, when you see this lost love line, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've lost somebody that they love, although it could be. But when you see this lost love line, what it generally indicates is that at some point in this person's life, something that was a part of their golden path. Now, again, without getting too woo-woo, the Taoists, the Buddhists, every spiritual tradition has this concept of what they call your original face. In other words, the pure spiritual soul being that you were before you took on a body. When we come into this life, there are certain activities that light us up like a Christmas tree. Just thinking about it brings us joy. And when we do those things, no matter how tired we are, no matter how grumpy we might be, the minute we start doing those things, the world is good again. You guys know what I'm talking about? You ever have that experience? There's some activity that no matter what time of day it is or where it is, the minute you get to do it, boom, it's unicorns and rainbows. Okay. One of the ways that you navigate your evolution in the spiritual universe is by doing more and more of those things that light you up like that. That phenomena that you experience in Chinese medicine, in Taoism, and Buddhism is called shening in. The shen means spirit. And what happens is when you experience those moments of joy, those moments of elation, your spirit, which is bigger than your body, you have a spirit body, an energy body, and a physical body. Your spirit body is bigger than all your other bodies. When you do something that brings you absolute joy and that is in alignment with your golden path, your mission for being here, your spirit goes shoo, and it actually wants to be more in your body. And you'll see that because the eyes will kind of glow. There'll be a light behind the eyes. There'll be a light under the skin. You've all seen this. You ever seen somebody who's like completely depressed or sad or crying or whatever, and all of a sudden you hand them a puppy or you give them something they've always wanted and thought they'd lost, and all of a sudden, boom, this energy just radiates out from them? How many of you have seen that? Type that in the chat. Okay. You've just seen what the Chinese medical practitioners call shening in. You experience so much joy that all of your bodies align and your spirit floods into your body. Now that is something that you want and is desirable, because the more of your spirit that inhabits your physical and energetic forms, the younger you get, the healthier you become. Because the spirit itself is a negative entropic force. It's a force of organization. And so as it comes in, everything starts to heal. Okay? Advanced face readers are what we call Shen chasers. When we start doing therapy with people, depending on what modality we're using, we're trying to compassionately provoke the body in such a way that they start to process their negative and suppressed emotions. And when they do, that more spirit comes flooding into the body and they heal physically, mentally, emotionally. Right? Many ways to do that. But as a face reader, I used to call face reading, the way Lillian taught it, Chinese vibrational psychotherapy, because it was literally poke the bear until the bear goes away, right? In a gentle, loving, compassionate way. And if you could get them to reframe those events, you would see the faces change right in front of you. How does that relate to this lost love line? When you see a person marking that way, what it means is that somewhere in their life, something that caused them to shen in, that brought more of their spirit into their body, was lost in a way that they can't retrieve it or don't know how to retrieve it. So it could be a person, but it doesn't have to be. It could be an activity. The example I often use in face reading is like, imagine that, when you're a little kid, right? And all of a sudden you loved horses. Like everything about you was working and riding horses, taking care of horses. You had horse pictures all over your walls. You had horse books, and you get a horse. And for years, maybe the first 10, 12 years of your life, it's all about horses, right? And then maybe as you get older, you meet somebody, and for whatever reason, they don't like horses, they're allergic to horses, they had a bad experience with a horse, But because you love that person, you're willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. And so you give up horses. Or your parents can't afford the horse anymore and they sell it. Or your horse dies. You'll mark. So when you see this marking, something was lost. And the way for these people to heal is to be able to release the emotion, derive a positive lesson from it, or, as is often the case in Golden Path training, find a way to reclaim it. When we talk about finding your mission in this life, you have a natural GPS inside of you already, but most people don't realize it, and that is what lights you up, what makes you shen out, shen in versus shenning out. The idea is to accumulate more and more things that light you up like a Christmas tree, and find a way to integrate those. Now, very often, as you get deeper and deeper on that path, as you get more and more on that path, society will start to kind of poo-poo you a little bit, because you start to move away from what society wants you to be and more of what you want you to be. Right? So, first, skepticism, joy, sadness, grief, or sorrow, grief. You'll see grief lines a lot in people who have lost somebody to a death, and usually the best approaches to that I've found are deathbed therapy. Right? So again, for those of you who got triggered by my horse story, I apologize. We have good therapists online, so reach out to them and they'll help you kind of get rid of that stuff. Okay? But again, that's what we're looking at. So is this useful so far? Okay, very good. All right, let's go deeper. Let me go back to my chart. All right. Next set that we're going to look at, let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, for some reason, there we go. Next set of lines I want to look at as we go down the face. You have a line here, 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 and here. So this is I think this is 5 or 6. Okay. So one of the things that you'll see a lot of times when you look at people is you'll see a line that runs from the nasolabial groove down the side. Now sometimes you'll see that line go all the way down to the mouth. Sometimes it'll go even further, right? We can talk about those variations later on. But this is another one of the good lines to have as far as Chinese medicine and face reading is concerned. The technical term for this in Chinese is called a fa ling line. Lillian called them purpose lines. When you see these markings, sorry, I'm sorry this is around a little bit more. I don't usually make it this big. When you see these markings, this indicates somebody who is actually fulfilling their life's mission. Right? They're actually doing things that are in alignment with their golden path. Now, one of the charts that we did not cover just right away was the right and left sides of the brain, or right and left sides of the face. You can actually split the face just like we divided 3 zones horizontally. You can divide the face into right hemisphere, or right side, and left side. The right side is considered your public face. The left side is considered your private face. So what does that actually mean? Hold on a second. Okay. The public face is the face we show the world. It's the face we want everybody to see, the calm, cool, collected, ultra professional, compassionate, loving persona we want the world to assume is us. The private side is the real us. Who we are when no one's looking. Okay? Now, when you start to look at the markings on the face, one of the things you want to start to pay attention to is on which side of the face, if at all, are the lines deeper? Are there longer, deeper lines on the private side or on the public side? Right? This will give you an indication of where that person's where that person is emotionally healthiest. How does that relate to Fa Ling? All right, or to these purpose lines? If you see someone who's got a very strong, very deep, very long line here, but not over here, you can extrapolate that in their private life, their personal life, they're having a much better time of it. They're actually on the path that they came here to be on. And they still got some work to do in their business life or in their public life. But a lot of times you'll see the exact opposite of that. You'll see someone with a nice long line here and nothing here. This is very often it's always their true right, their true left. So if they raise their right hand, that's what you go with. You don't reverse it. Okay? So you see this a lot in people who are workaholics. Right? Why? Because they're doing something that fulfills them, that makes them happy, and then they have to go home to someone who doesn't get it. Or who makes it hard for them to be at home. Right? And again, it's not about the other person, it's about how this person is perceiving and managing that side of their life. Right? So one of the things we look at when we look at faces is asymmetry. If you look at some of the shots of Amber Heard, if you take a mirror and you just hold those, divide the face in half, you will see two very, very, very different people. And you'll see that on her private side, all of her features are smaller, they're squintier, they're just much more not pleasant, I guess is a good way to say it. Right? But the public side that she shows, it's very different. So this is, again, something that, for those of you who are into lie detection, into understanding and predicting human behavior, this is actually a really useful skill. Now, I'll give you one of the ways that you can leverage this information. So one of the things that people do is by the way, is this whole public-private thing useful? Yes or yes? Okay. So if you want to be in a romantic relationship with somebody, one of the things you need to do is you need to pay more attention to their private side. If you're in a business or professional relationship with people, you want to spin and craft your dialogue, your narratives, your topics to their public side. You want to play to the person they want you to believe they are. Right? Remember, the golden rule of friendship. People like people who make them feel good about themselves. Write that down. Before you go around dive bombing people with their own negativity, remember the golden rule of friendship. People like people who make them feel good about themselves. Okay? This is from the FBI, by the way, in case you didn't know. Questions about public versus private before we get into the emotions I want to talk about? Private is, yes, it's always their right, their left. Their right is the public side. Their left is the private side. Okay? You can also divide things up. What about length versus depth of lines? Basically, the deeper the line, the more emotion is there. The longer the line, the longer it's been there. And you can also tell how old something is. When emotion emerges, it emerges from the center of the face and spreads outward, because you're basically a tube torus, and so energy is constantly emanating out and circling. This is how it does it. So when an emotion comes up, it migrates to the part of the face correspondent to the organ channel and whatever. And then what will happen is, the older it gets, the further back it moves. Okay, I actually, that's not in any of Lillian's books. I actually learned that directly from Lillian, because I went to a face reading class one time, and I had just had a fight with my significant other, and it had triggered all this old stuff about old relationships and stuff like that. And I woke up the next morning and I had this massive line. It looked, I mean, I thought I slept wrong, but it stayed there for 2 freaking days. And over the course of the 2 days, I started to work through a lot of my stuff, and that line started to go away. But I asked Lillian, what does that mean? She goes, oh, that's loss and grief. And it's really old. Okay? We won't be getting to eyes in this webinar. I have a whole training devoted to eyes, just so you know. Well, again, a lot of times things get buried. This is one of the things you look at. If you look at somebody and their face is like completely wrinkleless, and they should have wrinkles, one of 2 things is usually the case. A, they're either a Buddha waiting to happen and they've processed all their shit and they don't have any, or they're really repressing it. They're really dissociated from their stuff. David pointed to the wrong side as he left. No, I just was using I'm right-handed, so the images are reversed. All right. Okay, is this helpful? I'm always worried that I'm not giving you guys enough information. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to go through a couple more traits. Then, with your permission, I'd like to share with you a program I put together to help you learn from home and to get really, really good at this. Would that be okay? If you think it's okay, type it in the chat. Okay, good. All right, let's go to screen share. Okay. The next thing I'm going to talk about is I kind of call it the frightful 4, or frightful 3. Bitterness, over-nurturing, and disappointment. Bitterness can be seen by vertical or horizontal lines directly below the lower lip. The lower lip actually corresponds to your large intestine, so don't be surprised if you see very deep lines here, if these people are presenting with irritable bowel, Crohn's disease, or IBS. Okay? Over-nurturing can be seen by vertical or diagonal lines above the lips. So if this is someone who's chronically giving, doing caregiving, giving more than they're getting, things of that nature. I'll talk about smokers in a minute. You'll see these lines start to form. And to me, they actually create a pathology. And then finally, you get what we call disappointment lines. Now, there is a trait known as a downturned mouth. This is not a downturned mouth. This is when you see a wrinkle from the corner of the mouth that descends, almost like a permanent frown. This is somebody who's gone through a lot of disappointment. My experience has been that when you see somebody presenting with all 3, you have a recipe for cancer. It doesn't mean they'll get cancer, but there's no such thing as an emotionally healthy cancer patient. People develop cancers because they get really good at stuffing down emotions. Now, there's a pathology here that I have kind of seen and actually also been taught by other practitioners from other disciplines, and I'm going to share that with you. I'll just tell it to you really quick. So what happens a lot of times is these people often find themselves in situations where they constantly have to take care of everybody else's needs, and they operate from the idea that the universe is fair, and that they operate from a set of rules that say if I give and give and give, other people will give and give and give back to me. But they find out really, really quick that that doesn't happen. Okay? But because they believe that these are the rules and that's the way people should operate, they continue to do it even though they're not getting back. Eventually, that disappointment starts to build and build and build, and when it reaches a critical mass, they start to get bitter and disillusioned. And as these processes continue to accelerate, they eventually reach a point of hopelessness. And many times, the only way they know to get out of it is to create a terminal or chronic illness. So when you see cancer, or when you see these lines, it doesn't mean that they're going to get cancer. It means that if they keep going the way they're going, they could manifest it. So cancer for most people is, at first it's a metaphorical message from the nervous system that something needs to be addressed. But in the end game, it becomes an exit strategy for people. So again, when you look at your face, and again, don't get all hypochondriacal on yourself. When you see these markings on your face in the mornings, start doing things to get rid of it. Start doing things to process. Do your transformational triad, your color breathing, your magic frame, your spinning. All of these have proven tremendously powerful in getting rid of a lot of this stuff. And if you still need help, see someone trained in our regression or HMR or holographic memory theory and reframing and things of that nature, and we can get rid of it. So, has this been useful so far? Cool. With your permission, I'd like to share with you a program and a package that I've put together for you to take your stuff even further. Would you guys like to level up? Would you like to understand yourself better, gain an unbeatable edge in life, and take your people reading skills and your life to the next level? If so, type it in the chat. Cool. All right. We're going to go through this as quickly but as thoroughly as possible. I want to thank you for your diligence. And like I said, once we're done with this section, this is section 2 of the webinar, we're going to circle back, we're going to finish the emotional map of the face, and then we're going to customize the content of our webinar to the exact applications that you want to know more about. So I heard a lot of people asking about eyes. I heard 1 or 2 people asking about sexuality and compatibility. Josie's asking, does the primary location of the cancer make a difference? I'm not sure. You might want to ask the question a little better. I'm not sure what you're asking me. All right, let's go into this. So, with your permission, I'd like to introduce to you my amazing face reading for fun and profit, secrets of people reading and personality transformation home study course. One of the things I learned early on in my face reading career was it can be frustrating if all you can do is look at faces and diagnose them and you don't have the skills to actually fix what you see. So I've created something that allows you to do both in the shortest amount of time possible. So let's look at this. People reading for fun and profit, face reading for fun and profit is all about understanding yourself, reading people instantly, predicting behavior, helping more people to feel more confident, be more powerful, win the game of life, and ultimately get on your golden path, becoming more charming, charismatic, and irresistible. For those of you who actually want to take your training further, this offer is good until 11:59 p.m. tonight, September 21st. I apologize in advance for any typos I might have. So today's webinar is all about, oops, my bad. I can't read my own PowerPoint here. Hold on a second. How to assess person. This is our Secrets of Face Reading for Fun and Profit home study course. It's a $1,497 value. And this is some of the most powerful, proven, real-world face reading skills and secrets of personal transformation I've ever had the good fortune to come across. And I found it to be an absolute game changer. So this is going to teach you how to quickly and easily assess personality and temperament, how to understand in just seconds how people think and make decisions, and all their different thinking styles. In fact, Lillian was so good at face reading, she could look at you and tell you your Myers-Briggs profile. She was that amazing. It'll show you how to unlock people's emotional traumas and how to actually fix them, how to their management style. Are they dominant? Are they domineering? Do they work better alone? Do they work better as part of a group? Should they be leading the group or should they be part of the group? All these things you can tell from looking at the structures of a person's face and figure out where in your company these people belong or if they even belong there. Okay? We'll teach about sexual and romantic compatibility, how to look at people and figure out, okay, these people are sexually and romantically compatible. These people are they're a shitstorm waiting to happen. You probably don't want these two people in the same room for a long period of time. The ability to manage money and resources, how to connect with people, how to understand yourself better and predict human behavior. And for those of you who are very social, who are maybe have problems opening up to people or around people, when people know that you can read faces, they will flock to you like moths to a flame. You will literally become the most fascinating person in the room. You will know instantly in seconds if people are lying to you, because one of the interesting things that happens when people lie, unless they're sociopathic, they shen out. You will see their shen actually darken. We'll show you how to look for that and other things as well. So this is where we start. But we've got more. It's a $1,497 value, but if you act today, we're going to include these special bonuses. When I put together a course, I don't think about just the primary thing that we want to learn. I look at, okay, if these guys are going to learn this stuff from home, what's the best, most comprehensive way for them to learn the most in the shortest amount of time possible, to be the most powerful? And so I included these special bonuses to give you a well-rounded ability to not just look at people and understand them, but to actually fix the stuff that you see if they want it done. So we're also going to include our special Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study Program. This is a home study course. It will teach you the 7 most powerful, actually probably 10 most powerful transformation techniques, as well as instant and rapid inductions. It'll give you the confidence and the ability to literally unlock the power of a person's subconscious mind, including your own. You'll be able to hypnotize anyone, anytime, anywhere, to remove blocks and limiting beliefs, find and remove hidden negativity and traumatic events and emotions, many of which they didn't even know they had, how to clear up issues that just don't seem to go away, how to change that crappy voice inside your head so that it actually builds you up and inspires you and motivates you and reminds you of all the reasons why you deserve success instead of ripping you apart and telling you how unworthy and crappy you are. Right? We're going to teach you how to install the traits, qualities, and characteristics of people who you like and admire, so it becomes like a template in your mind and body that your neurology follows and allows you to take on the traits and attributes and accomplish the things that your heroes do. We're going to talk about conversational hypnosis, the 7 most powerful language patterns that exist. We're going to talk to you more about the emotional bonding checklist and how to use that to get people inspired, fired up, and wired to do the things you want them to do from a therapeutic basis, and how to use that to overcome procrastination and much, much more. Total combined value, if you take your Secrets of Face Reading home study course and combine that with the Identity by Design treatment protocols, it's a $2,994 value. We're going to give you the Identity by Design course absolutely free because we want you to be empowered not just with the ability to read people's faces, we want you to be empowered with the ability to change what you see. Whether you do that for yourself, for your friends and family, or you're doing it on a professional level, this is a 1-2 combination that will absolutely change everything about your life. You will see things nobody else sees, and you'll be able to fix and help things and heal things that nobody else can help or heal. It's a $2,994 value, but we're not going to stop with that because we also want you to be able to go to the subtle levels. You heard me talk earlier about shedding in and shedding out, about when you do things that light you up, more of your spirit comes into your body. You have 3 levels to your body, or 3 bodies, depending on how you want to think about it. You have your spiritual body or your mental body, you have your energy body, and you have your physical body. Most of people's issues are lodged in the mental body. This is a vibrational phenomenon. So we're also going to teach you how to work with those subtle energy bodies. Okay? And so to do that, we're going to include our special vibrational healing, energy secrets, and remote influence home study course. This is a $1,497 value. We're going to give it to you free because we want to round out your training. We want you to be able to heal and fix what you see. Using this process, you're going to be able to unlock the powers of your mind or your clients' minds to control your energy, build it, and use it, to balance and clean people's chakras, to heal and influence people remotely, how to remove blockages and thought forms from their energy bodies. The obsessive thoughts and things of that nature usually have a thought form connected to them. We'll teach you how to clean those things out. How to manifest anything you want in the shortest amount of time possible. It's one of the added bonuses. We'll teach you the most powerful manifestation tool on the planet, which is also one of the most powerful healing tools on the planet, and that's known as image cycling. We'll teach you how to protect yourself against manipulation and psychic attack, and how to truly tap into the powers of your spirit, your soul, your energy body, and your subconscious mind so that you can realize your true potential. You combine all these things together, and you will literally be moving through the world like Gandalf or a graduate of Hogwarts. You'll have the amazing ability to do all these things, and they're simple. You just have to have a training program that allows you to tap into these things. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to include this as part of your face reading package, absolutely free. The total combined value so far, if you think about trying to buy these individually on the website, for those of you who can't wait, go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. That's www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. Okay? So it's a total value of $4,491. We're not going to stop there. We're also going to include another way to look at and read people. See, reading people's faces is just one piece of the puzzle. But people have this thing called behavior. And when we look at people's behaviors, and then we look at their face, their behaviors start to take on a greater relevance to us. So we add these two different levels. We look at the emotional makeup, their temperament, their personality, and then we look at their behavior and we look at where they match. This gives us even more insight into how people behave, how they think, and allows us to accurately predict their behavior. So you're going to learn from this program. This was a 2-day training that I taught, how to understand people through their behaviors, their gestures, their languaging. You'll learn how to detect lies and other deceptive behaviors. You'll understand the body language of attraction. There are 7 discrete stages that people go through when they move from stranger to intimacy. These are the exact same body language phases that many people go through in business dealings when they're moving from strangers to business partners. There's a lot of similarities. So you'll learn to be able to look at people from across the room at their posture, their ventral orientation, their forward and backward leans, where their feet are pointing, the types of gestures that they're using, and determine very, very quickly a profile of how these people move through the world. Then when you actually start reading their face, you'll see the context that generates those behaviors. It's a really powerful 1-2 punch combination. You'll learn how to influence people without words, how to stand, where to stand, how to project charm and confidence and charisma on demand. This is part of our much vaunted state control training. That is one of our trade secrets, and literally gives you Jedi powers in terms of influencing people. But you don't believe me? Talk to the people in the chat who've actually done the training, and they will tell you. Women will teach you how to understand men better. Men will teach you how to understand women better and allow you to translate your behaviors to something that they perceive as desirable, so you're both on the same page. We'll teach you about the 6 levels of dress, from the highest level of status to the lowest level of status, what they look like, how they work, and how to use them. We'll teach you to eliminate behaviors that weaken your influence, right? We call these adapters, right? We'll teach you how to ultimately you'll wind up closing more deals, getting more dates, having more success with the people you interact with professionally, personally, familially, romantically. It's a great, great extra bonus add. It's a $997 value. We're going to give it to you absolutely free because, again, we want you to have the biggest bang for your buck. We want you to be fully prepared for this. Total combined value, if you added up all the courses we've talked about so far, is $5,488. If you were to buy them individually, which some of these you actually can't, because they're only available on our webinar purchases or what have you. So I'm also going to throw in, because one of the things that kept coming up, it's almost like you guys read my mind. I'm going to throw in this special Lie to Me If You Dare, How to Catch a Liar crash course. This was a videotape of a meetup course that I did several years ago. And it teaches you the most powerful way to catch liars in the shortest amount of time possible. It's going to teach you psychological tips and tricks to catch liars on contact, how to understand the key indicators of deception, the 15 unique tells that clue you in when people may be lying to you. One of the things I need to really emphasize, if you combine this with the Shen reading we talked about, remember when I said people lie, their Shen goes out of their body. When they tell the truth, their Shen comes back in. If you combine that Shen in, Shen out observation with these 15 traits, you're going to have a really, really good barometer as to when somebody is most likely either really, really uncomfortable and on the verge of being deceptive, or is actively being deceptive. You're going to learn how to look at people and at everybody and understand what those body language indicators mean. Not necessarily what's causing them, but what they're trying to accomplish by doing it. And once you understand what people are trying to accomplish by doing a certain type of behavior, it becomes easier and easier to extrapolate whether they're lying to you or not. So once again, women, we're going to help you understand men better. Men, we're going to help you understand women better. We're going to teach you how to eliminate the behaviors that weaken your influence or may flag you inappropriately as being deceptive. There are certain behavioral traits or tells in the kinesics field. It's known as Othello's error or Othello's flaw. There are certain people who are have a high level of neuroticism, and when they feel challenged or threatened, they start engaging in high stress behaviors that a lot of people often misrepresent as being deceptive. We'll teach you what those behaviors look like and how to avoid them, so that when you're actually talking to somebody, you don't flag yourself as being deceptive when you're only just nervous, right? So you'll learn to close more deals, get more dates, and probably the most important thing, the possibility of you being manipulated ever again drops dramatically. It's a $97 value. This is a course we've had for a long time. It's one of our most popular lie detection crash courses. We're going to give it to you free just as a way to say, hey, let's just round out your training and go from there. It's a $5,585 value. So let's review. This is what we've got for you. Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course valued at $1,497. We're also going to throw in the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study course so you can fix whatever you find. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give it to you absolutely free. We're also going to throw in the Vibrational Healing, Energy Healing, and Remote Influence Home Study course. This actually teaches you how to do all these things remotely as well. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give it to you free. You're going to learn the People Reading for Fun and Profit 2-day intensive, which rounds out your body language training, clothing training, as well as basics of lie detection. It's a $997 value. We're going to give it to you absolutely free if you're one of the first few people to sign up for our program by the end of the webinar. And finally, we're going to throw in that Lie to Me If You Dare, How to Catch a Liar Home Study Crash course. I really liked this course. I was a big fan of the show Lie to Me. I liked it so much that I named my lie detection course after it, because I really felt after learning these materials that I became pretty bulletproof when it came to people lying to me. Now, for those of you who are focused on lie detection, let me just put this out there. Strategically, catching lies is it's even the best people in the world are about 60% accurate. But one of the things you want to be very careful with when you have a high probability that someone is lying, it's not always strategically to your advantage to call them on their bullshit. Sometimes it's better to know they're lying and have contingencies in operation for when that lie manifests, as opposed to destroying or torpedoing the relationship and leaving you at a disadvantage. So one of the things I want to caution you, when you start doing the materials, utilizing the materials from the face reading to the people reading to the lie detection, you're going to know things about people that you can just blow them out of the water physically, mentally, emotionally. A lot of times it's better to tell less and plan more. But again, I'm not a persuasion or influence cop. I'm not a people reading cop. I'm not going to say you have to use it a certain way. Just think before you launch these torpedoes at people. And I've crossed that line a couple of times. And in retrospect, maybe the person had it coming, maybe they didn't. But it's your karma. So again, just because you know something doesn't mean you should tell something. So, but again, you use these skills however you want. They're yours. Once you own them, Learn. Use them and learn. Okay? So total value is $5,585 if you register before the end of the webinar today. Now, the best part is, a lot of people say, well, that's an awful lot of money, David. Well, here's the cool thing. You have absolutely zero risk with this material. I have absolute confidence in every single piece of this program. I absolutely know. I've actually understated what these things will do for you. But don't take my word for it. Get your course, get your package, work it for a full 60 days. If after 60 days of doing this process, you're not on the fast track to understanding yourself and other people better, you're not reading them, their personality faster and faster and with higher and higher and higher success rates, you're not automatically becoming more successful because you're making better choices, and you're not on the fast track to manifesting your dreams, and if you're not feeling more secure or confident or powerful, if you're not satisfied that the course has lived up to what you wanted it to do in any way, shape, or form, all you got to do is pick up the phone or send Stephanie an email. And if there's a sticking point you're having trouble with, we'll work you through it. If after that you're still not getting the results, we will refund your money. Because if you're not getting the value that we promised, we don't want your funds. We don't want your investment. We will return it, pretty much no questions asked. But give us a chance to help you through the material. There's a lot here. You could spend your life on this. But again, our whole idea is to get you started fast. So by the end of the first course, you should be able to look at somebody from hairline to chin line and be able to create a profile in as little as 2 minutes. You can have enough information to actually have a working profile of them. And then you just get better. But if you're not 100% satisfied with the program, just let us know and we'll give you a refund. All you got to do to get yours now is go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. davidsnydernlp.com/face. Let me just put that in the chat for you. I know Brandon and Stephanie have been doing that. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out directly to Stephanie at 858-282-4663. Once again, that's 858-282-4663. And Stephanie will happily help you with your sticking points and getting your payment plan set up and things of that nature. Okay. Oh, by the way, there is a payment plan for this. You can break that up into 3 easy installments of just $3.99. I didn't see it in the. Hold on a second. Let me back up here. That was the typo. I forgot the call to action. So yeah, you can actually break this up into 3 easy installments of $3.99. So 3 for $3.99. Just let Stephanie know. Okay. For those of you who are action takers, like a lot of you are asking for the link, like before I was even done explaining the package, guess what? You get a reward. For those of you who actually jumped on this and who jump on this before I log off the webinar, I've got these special fast action bonuses for you. First one is you're going to get a free 3-month trial membership to our NLP Power Mastermind mentoring program. So let me jump off, and you're also going to get unlimited access to our 11-year video archive. It's a $1,597 value. We're going to give it to you absolutely free. Total combined value is $7,182. Let me explain to you why this is important for you. The NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program is the world's longest running hands-on NLP and mind control and influence training practice group. It's been running nonstop since October of 2010. So we're literally coming up on our 11-year anniversary. You won't get a certificate from the NLP Power Mastermind Group. What you will get is hands-on training and personal one-on-one feedback from me, and you'll be surrounded by people who want the same things you do, who want to get better at this stuff. On the 3rd Saturday of every month, we log in. I literally go around the room and I say, Seth, what do you want to learn? Linda, what do you want to learn? Lynn, what do you want to learn? Stephanie, what do you want to learn? Jason, what do you want to learn? And I write all those, I take all your questions and all the things you want to know about. I write them on my screen. I look at where they all kind of intersect. I create a lesson plan on the spot. And for the next 4 hours, actually it's 5 hours. The next 5 hours, I drill you on those skills until you can do them in your sleep. And anything goes at the mastermind, right? You want to learn more about face reading? We'll do face reading. You want to learn more about hypnotic language? We'll teach you hypnotic language. You want to clear traumas? We'll clear traumas. You want to learn about spiritual and mystical practices, law of attraction practices? That's okay. Because it's all about training. It's all about rolling up your sleeves, doing the drills, and getting the skills. So you won't get a certificate from the mastermind. What you will get is the one thing that takes you from access to the information to ownership of the information. And that's repetition, practice, feedback. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. I drill you on those skills that you specifically want to learn about until you can do them backwards and forwards, and then you go out into the world and you apply those skills. You come back the next month and I'm going to say, well, what do you want to learn now? What do you want to practice now? And I'm going to do the same thing, and we're going to drill you over and over and over again. The best part is we have videotaped every single session that we have done at the NLP Power Mastermind since October of 2010. And we've archived that footage. Part of it is on the NLP Power website. Part of it is in our private Facebook group. And the bulk of them, the newer stuff, is in our Diamond Platinum YouTube channel. So as a private member or a member of the NLP Power Mastermind, you get access to all three. You can binge watch 11 years worth of content that has never seen the light of day on YouTube. It's never been released in a product. It's at least as much content as we have available on our YouTube channel. We have that much. We actually have 2 or 3 times that much that we've never released. And you get to watch it as much as you want for the full 90 days. If after 90 days you don't want to hang out, you kind of got what you came for, pick up the phone, let us know, and we'll remove you from the group. But if after 90 days you realize you found a new home, you've surrounded yourself with people who all want the same things you do, that can support you and help you, and have become friends for you, pick up the phone, let Stephanie know, and we'll show you how to continue your membership. And you get full access to the 11-year archive while you're an active member of the Mastermind. So, that being said, we're going to give that to you free. It's a $1,597 value, but if you think about what you're really getting, it's worth a whole lot more than that, because that is the path to mastery. The more you have the opportunity to do these things with people who aren't going to look at you like you're crazy, weird, or belong in a funny farm, the more power you're going to get. And it's fun. It really is. We always have a good time. I certainly owe a lot of my success to having to teach that particular group, because I always have to find ways to put things together in ways that I never thought of before. So you will too. All right, so let's go back. All right, so it's a $7,182 value. We're going to give it to you absolutely free. We're also going to throw in face reading level 2. This picks up where face reading 1 leaves off. And once again, it's all about learning how to create even more profound profiles, learning how to look at people's trauma history, learning how to look at their boundaries, their business acumen, their bossiness. These are all attributes and elements of the face that we didn't get to in face reading level 1, but it picks up where face reading 1 leaves off and fleshes out the rest of the attributes, traits, qualities, and characteristics. We're going to just give this to you as our way of saying thank you for taking action and giving you the big picture in terms of personality and temperament. So this is face reading level 2. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give it to you absolutely free. So the total combined value, if you do the math right now, hopefully my math is right, is $8,679. So, but wait, as Ron Popeil would say, there's more. For the first 25 people to register today. Now, when I say today, what I mean is before I log off the webinar. If you grab your package before I log off the webinar today, you get this. Face Reading for Fun and Profit Live Certification Bootcamp. And I believe that is that January or December? Seth, I think it's January 25th to the 27th, 2022. It's a $1,950 value, but as a special bonus for those of you who attend the live training, we are going to throw in for you a video copy of the training you attended. So it's a $1,497 value. It's going to be it says 4 days. Well, maybe we'll do 4 days. Who knows? 25 minutes. Anyway, it's a $3,447 value. It's yours absolutely free. So you get the live training, and then you get the videos uploaded into your account. This will not, we haven't decided if we're going to do a virtual yet, Gary, If we get enough people signing up and requesting a virtual, they have to be signed up for the course already. If we get enough people signing up, then we will look at doing a hybrid option. There's a December 5th through the 7th face reading class. Okay, well, what we'll do, because I designed this particular webinar package for the January training, if you want to trade your January ticket in for the December training, we will swap that out for you. Right? But as it stands now, you can use this super ticket for either one of our live face reading certification boot camps, either the one in January, which is going to be in Orlando, Florida, or the one in December. Okay. So again, this will carry a certification. Okay. Yeah, the live events always have a certification connected. In fact, the only way you can get certified is if you attend the live event. So you can get the information by watching the videos and practicing the material. But if you actually want to be certified, you have to come to a live training. And that's for all of our events. The only exceptions that we ever made for that were during COVID, when people were internationally landlocked. And so what we would do is you had to attend the virtual training in real time, and then you were given a provisional certificate that was good for a VIP ticket to a live event, and you could take the live event for free, and when you finished the live event and your skills were vetted, you would get a full-fledged certificate as opposed to a provisional one. So we wanted you to have the opportunity to use this material, but we wanted to make sure that before we offered an actual full certification, that you could actually do the work. And people really like that because they literally got to take the course twice. No, this is actually, we give you the live event as a free bonus for buying the webinar package. So again, this is all about how to instantly read people and their personality, how to understand how they think and feel and behave, measure their sexual and romantic compatibility, their current state of physical and emotional health, right? How to uncover and resolve forgotten traumas. This is one of the, I'd say there are traumas we know about and traumas we don't. This is how you find them, right? The relationship they have with their parents and siblings, how they make this, so much more. So many more things that this live action training, and by the way, I will warn you, when you take the live action training, remember I said you have to be very careful how you talk to people? There's some kind of weird vibrational phenomena that occurs when you go through an actual face reading certification. People seem to become way more sensitive to what you say, and so they tend to get emotional really quick. So this is, I'm just, for those of you who are coming to the live event, I just want to warn you that as a face reader, something about you changes that makes people very, very emotional very, very quickly. So you have to be very careful how you talk. Okay? But again, you'll get not only the live event, but you'll get a video of the live event. If you're, for some reason, you cannot travel, talk to Stephanie, and if we get enough people that want to access it virtually, then we'll work something out for you. But as of right now, there is no virtual option unless enough people sign up for the class and then actually request it. Okay. Total value so far, if you do the math, $12,126. Let's go ahead and, man, I really did not update this well. I'm sorry. Secrets of Face Reading Home Study Course valued at $1,497. You're going to get the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study Course. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. Again, if you cannot travel, call Stephanie and she will work out a personal VIP virtual option if enough people are requesting it. Okay. Valued at $1,497. We're going to give you the Vibrational Healing, Energy Healing, and Remote Influence Home Study Course. It's going to be, we're going to give that to you absolutely free. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give you the People Reading for Fun and Profit 2-day intensive. It's a $997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. And the Lie to Me If You Dare, How to Catch Liars crash course. It's a $97 value. It's perfect cherry on the sundae for this whole face reading continuum and people reading continuum. We're going to give that to you free. For those of you who act quick, before I log off the webinar, you're going to get the 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind practice group. It's a $1,597 value. You're going to get the face reading level 2 video course. It's a $1,497 value. And of course, that free VIP super ticket to our next face reading intensive. It's a $3,497 value. Total package value is $12,126. But again, we're not going to charge you $6,167. We're not going to charge you $2,697. You get it all for one low installment of just $997. So if I didn't say that earlier and you were ready to buy it at full price, Merry Christmas, my friends. You can get it all for $997. Okay? Or if you want, you can break that up into 3 easy installments of just $399. All you got to do to get yours is go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. That's davidsnydernlp.com/face. Oops. Sorry. Okay, that'll work. Now, while we're on the subject, let me explain a little bit about the VIP super ticket. If you decide that, or something comes up at the last minute that you can't make either the December training or the January training, not a problem. Just pick up the phone, let Stephanie know, we'll move you to the next face reading event. If something comes up at the last minute that you can go, but it's full, like our Secrets of Internal Power course is full, but you have a VIP ticket, we'll find a place for you, right? So again, it doesn't expire. If you want to gift that VIP ticket to somebody else, just let Stephanie know and we'll let them come on your ticket. If for some reason the price goes up for the face reading class, it doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. Okay? This is probably easily one of the best packages we've ever created for helping people understand one another and help one another and be more effective in social situations, physical situations, healing situations, you name it. And again, for those of you who want a VIP or a virtual intensive option, after you get your package and you're in the program, just let Stephanie know. And if we get at least 5 to 6 people that want to do it virtually, then we'll work on getting somebody in to man a Zoom room and put you through the paces. Right? We want you to have this training. We want you to get the full benefit of everything that we're sharing with you today. The other thing I want to share with you, for those of you who are thinking about leaving, remember we have section 3 coming up where we teach you more stuff on face reading. So if you need to go, great. If you can pick it up on the replay, but if you want to learn more face reading, this is our format. So the other thing I want to share with you is, as you look at this package, if you are a veteran of Planet David and you already have some of these courses, and you get your package, just let Stephanie know. And as long as you can find something of equal or lesser value, we'll let you swap it out. It's not a problem. We want you to be happy with your course. We want you to have material that's new and exciting and relevant to you, right? So again, all you got to do is reach out to Stephanie. As Stephanie, let me do this the easy way. It's called cut and paste. Oh, she already did it. Ha! I'm too slow. Stephanie at nlppower.com, 858-282-4663, and she'll answer your questions. So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to take a 8-minute break. Let you use the restroom, let you get refills on your coffee, take your notes, formulate your questions, finish getting your packages, whatever it is you need to do. We're going to take an 8-minute break. When we come back, and I usually come back from break early, when we come back, I'll answer any questions you have about the package or ancillary face reading stuff. We'll go back to our emotional map. We'll finish the emotional map of the face. And then we'll start targeting the applications that you find you're most curious about. Okay? So again, just go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. That's www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. And we'll see you in about 8 minutes.
Um, oh, have I been talking with a muted microphone this whole time? Oh my goodness, I feel silly now. So, did you guys hear me just explain anything about handedness at all? Okay. So there was a question that was asked: Is does handedness play a role in the facial markings? And my experience has been that handedness, just like handwriting analysis, believe it or not, handedness, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, doesn't seem to play any role at all in these markings. One of the things I in my rehearsal that I mentioned was that Chinese face reading is a Chinese model, but that model has been impacted from time to time by the regimes in charge or the dominant spiritual beliefs at certain times. So let me explain that really quick. The Taoism and Buddhism are both a part and parcel of Chinese culture, but energetically they actually align the body. There's a lot of places where they agree, but there's a lot of places where they actually disagree. So like the Taoist systems will say that the left side is yang, the right side is yin. The Buddhist systems will say the right side is yang and the left side is yin. Who's right? Test it, figure it out. They're polar, so it doesn't matter. But one of the places where you'll see sometimes this dichotomy of things with yin and yang are in some of the correspondences. For example, they will tell you that the left side of the, let me see if I remember this correctly. The right side is female, relates to female issues. The left side relates to male issues. So if somebody has a marking on their left side of their face, you can think of it at one or two or both levels. If it's on the left side of their face, it's a loss in their private life, but it could also be related to their father, a father figure or a masculine figure, which kind of flies in the face of yin and yang, right? Right side is female, which is usually yin, right? So if we see a marking on the right side of the face, we could say it's an example of their public life or a loss that was incurred in their public life. Or it could be related to a female figure, like the mother or an aunt or grandma. Chinese grandmas always take care of the kids, so they tend to take on that duty. So there's little nuances here and there. But one of the things that we look at when we revise the system for Westerners is we wanted to do it in a way that you didn't need to have all this Chinese medical backgrounds and terminology. What's Jing? What's Qi? What's Ling? What's Ming? What's Shen? What's all this crap? What's fire? What's water? They're fascinating studies, but they don't really help you in terms of accessing the material and creating a personality profile very, very quickly. A lot of it is not relevant to the applications that most of you want to learn about. So what we're doing, probably the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, we'll be launching a classical Chinese face reading certification program. That's all about the energetics and the Chinese terminologies, Chinese medical theory, things of that nature. What you're getting in this package is everything that's in Lillian's book as pertains to personality and temperament, but it's organized for the Western mind. So you can literally go from hairline to chin line and create a profile in as little as 30 seconds without worrying about water features versus wood features versus fire features versus, and it gets crazy. Because the information, if you follow that 5-element model, isn't linear. It's very, very challenging. If you have the background already, you can kind of do it. But this is it follows natural eye tracking processes. When people scan, this is something you should know about because this is the way your training is organized. When people look at faces, they do one of three things. A, they look at the eyes, or they gaze at the eyes, or they gaze at the mouth, or they oscillate from the eyes to the mouth. They just keep going back and forth. So we organize, and when people read a page, they scan from left to right and they zigzag from top to bottom. So what we did was we organized the face reading data in exactly the way your eyes naturally move when reading a page or looking at a face. So it's very easy to just, wherever your eyes rest, you instantly know like a checklist, what those features mean and how to put them together. Right. So everything that's in the manuals is in Lillian's face reading book, which is for College Fourth. It's Face Reading in Chinese Medicine by Lillian Bridges. I highly recommend and support. She's my lineage. She's my teacher. She still is my teacher, even though she's passed on. You know, and we will continue to honor that lineage and build on it. But I recommend that you have that book. It's required reading, and there's a lot of great stuff in there that you'll learn about with Jing and Qi and Shen, all these other weird terms, right? Okay. So I just wanted to kind of, again, I was answering the question and I was talking. I realized I had my mic muted, so I apologize for that. Was that helpful at all? Give me some love, people. Okay, good. So we're all good? Okay. You guys ready to finish the emotional map? Yes or yes? Okay. Now, once we finish the emotional map, if we have enough time left over, what would you guys like to focus on after that? What would be your application of choice? Just type in the chat what you guys would like to know about after we finish the emotional map. Ears? Okay. Don't be bashful. It's your webinar. Eyes, okay. I have one for ears, one for eyes. All right, well, you guys think about it, and we'll come back to it. Let's get back to whatever I feel is most useful. I'm giving you what I feel is most useful right away. Anyway, all right, let's go back to facial and faces and emotions. All right, let me make this a little bit smaller so it all fits on my screen. So when we look at, we talked about over-nurturing, we talked about bitterness, and we talked about disappointment. When these three things combine, when I see this, my flags go up. Because this is someone who's really, really good at stuffing emotions. They tend to be moving through the world with a set of rules that nobody else is playing by. And they're really, really angry. That's one of the things that you can always count on, is a built-up level of resentment, which is eventually what I believe that becomes the bitterness. Okay? If you have these lines, now, when I was talking about these lines earlier, someone mentioned smoking. Yes. Many people who smoke have these lines. The question is, why? Why are they smoking? Chances are it's a form of self-nurturing. It's the only nurturing they get, so that's what they use, right? So, but when you see this, one of the other things you can do is when you see these markings, ask if they're having any kind of intestinal issues. Again, I bet 50% of the time or better, you'll find out they have some kind of IBS, food sensitivities, constipation or diarrhea, Crohn's disease. I think there's one more I'm missing, but you get the idea. Okay, upper lip and ears. Okay, cool. All right, so there's a fun line right here at the center of the lip. Let me make it a little bit bigger. This is a humor line. These people can tell a good joke. They appreciate a good joke. Okay. So if you have that line, you usually have a pretty good, well-developed sense of humor. Okay. And the next one we're going to look at, actually, we're going to go up the center line now. So a lot of you were asking about this in the chat, so we're going to, rather than, you know what, let's just stick with the program. Let's just go around and we'll finish with the center. The next line I want you guys to look at is a line, I'm going to show you this on me. This is called auditory intuition. If you look at the ear from the side, you may see lines that they look like little gills right in front of the ear. We call these auditory intuition. And what that actually means, this is a form of auditory hypervigilance. Let me talk about that a little bit. And the way this comes about, let me make this a little bit smaller. The way this comes about is people with this marking often grew up in environments where they had to pay very, very close attention to how people spoke. Not just the words that they used, but the tonality, the timbre, the tempo, and because they needed to know what mood you were in, if you were dangerous or not. They had to be careful about what they said because of how it could be interpreted. So this marking starts off as an adaptive mechanism to help a person survive in hostile environments. Like my teacher Lillian used to say, I think it was her second or third husband, she could tell what kind of mood he was in by the way he closed the car door. Right? People with this particular, and I have it in spades. People and it meshes perfectly with my experience growing up. Have really good bullshit detectors. Like they have this ability to just tap into the secret messages in the way a person is speaking. And so these guys are actually, if there is such a thing as a natural lie detector, it's usually these people. They have a very, very acute sense of auditory awareness that allows them to understand subtext, intention, spins, things of that nature. Now, because this particular marking, because of where it lies on the triple warmer meridian. The triple warmer or triple burner meridian is the stress meridian and the water metabolism meridian in the body. It has 3 areas of control. And so what happens is people with this marking tend to be prone to dehydration. They sometimes have water metabolism issues. And so they often wind up drinking a lot of water. Because they drink a lot of water, they pee a lot. Because they pee a lot, they tend to be deficient on certain types of electrolytes. Because they're deficient on certain types of electrolytes, they tend to experience heart palpitations. And they sometimes interpret these as panic attacks. So if you have these markings and you periodically get rapid or regular heartbeats, and you think you're having a panic attack, try supplementing with a good electrolyte for a few weeks and see if those palpitations start to disappear or go away. Right? I found that when I started supplementing with electrolytes, that a lot of my tachycardia and irregularities, which I thought were just me being neurotic, were actually electrolyte deficiencies. So again, don't take it. Jeffrey says, "I love you." Right? So just because you have irregular heartbeats doesn't mean you're having a panic attack. It could be something as simple as not enough of magnesium or potassium. Okay? But again, this is how diagnosis works. When a Chinese medical practitioner examines you, he's going to listen, he's going to feel your pulse, he's going to look at your face, he's going to listen to the sounds you make, right? He's going to look at different areas that are holographically connected and see if the same kind of markings appear. Fran says, "I needed to hear that. Thanks, David. You are very welcome. You're very welcome." Okay, not to play down the gratitude. I get that feedback a lot whenever I get to this marking, because a lot of you are here because of these kinds of early childhood experiences. So a lot of you have this, right? And maybe you think it's because of a remnant. It is kind of like a remnant from your past, but not the way you think. Right? So this particular marking starts off as a survival mechanism, but as you mature and you expand your knowledge base, it actually becomes a very, very useful tool for helping you succeed in life and in the world. Right? So remember, Everything that you've experienced, none of it's wasted. That's the beauty of it. Everything that you encountered, everything that you learned, regardless, even if you think it's useless now, it's not. Everything is useful, and everything has meaning, right? Like, a lot of times when people get this material, they go, "Man, I wish I'd learned this 25 or 30 years ago." And I look at them, and with the most sincere, straight face I can come up with, I say, "You weren't ready." You get these things, you are presented with these things when you're actually finally ready to assimilate and use them. Showing this stuff to you 10, 15, 20 years ago would have been like throwing pebbles against a brick wall. You just weren't ready for it, right? So keep that in mind. For those of you who are trying to figure out Lillian's actual name, it's face reading and Chinese medicine. And the author is Lillian Pearl Bridges. Oops, sorry, I spelled her last name wrong. Even I got it wrong. And hopefully she's looking down and smiling on us right now. All right, let's get back. Any questions about the auditory hypervigilance or any of that symptomology? Okay. Next one we want to look at is also, again, this is more of a biomedical marker. If you look at the earlobe, you'll see a little wrinkle. Let me go back to our ear marking map. So now, instead of a marking in front of the ear, what you're going to see are what look like little wrinkles. Some people have one, some people have two, some people have three. When you see these markings, these are often indicative of blood pressure irregularities. So when we start looking at this, you're going to see somebody who has, they don't necessarily have high blood pressure. Oh, we're not showing, oh, did I not show the diagram? I'm sorry. It's been a long day, guys. Okay, so let me go back to the ear diagram so you can see that. So this is what I drew. So when you see, 1, 2, or 3 wrinkles, this is an indication of what Lillian likes to call blood pressure irregularities. And when we talk about blood pressure irregularities, we're not talking about high blood pressure. We're not talking about low blood pressure. We tend to be talking more about erratic blood pressure. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, sometimes it's normal, right? Now, psycho-emotionally, what this tends to indicate is a tendency for neurological overreaction. What I mean by that is, let's say that the average person experiences a startle response on a scale of 0 to 10. The average human being, when they go into neurological arousal or get surprised, for example, somebody jumps out of the hall and goes boom, right? And they spike up to a 6 or 7. Someone with these kinds of markings, when experienced with a sudden emotional shift, may not hit a 6 or 7. They may go right up to an 8 or 9 and pass out. Right? I was gifted with this, and I had to learn how to really deal with it. Is because I have a very sensitive nervous system, and so when I experience shocks or traumas, I tend to experience it very, very strongly. And it took a lot of training and a lot of clearing and self-work to maintain. And this is why in my systems we have such an emphasis on state control, because without state control, everything else goes to shit, right? Even as a face reader. So I have both of these markings. So when you get like your Identity by Design course, which is in your package, there will be a section on state control. I recommend when you get a chance that you also grab either CPI-1 or Killer Influence, because the state control training is even more in depth. But a lot of these people will have high blood pressure, low blood pressure. They'll tend to experience an exaggerated startle response or emotional feeling. And because I didn't understand myself for many, many years, I wound up engaging in what we call stuffing or emotional armoring, to the point where I stuffed my emotions so deeply, I actually blocked a lot of my psychic and intuitive skills. So as intuitive as you think I am, there's levels to it that I stuffed down. I still haven't unlocked yet. So I'm still a work in progress. But I have the tools. I just got to decide to do it. Right? So again, when you see these markings, pay very close attention. And again, when you see markings like this in other people, don't say, "Oh, you have heart problems." Well, they may or may not. But what you want to do is you want to say, you might consider, have you had a physical recently? Right? You see, you might want to have your cardiovascular system checked. Right? And then you say, well, I'm curious. Many people, listen to how I say this. Many people with that marking often experience extreme emotional peaks when they're surprised or startled or whatever. Does that often happen for you? Right? And a lot of times they'll see. Oh wait, hold on a sec. Ken Kern says, pathologists call them the cardiac cleft. They often see it in autopsies from heart attacks. Okay, so there you go. So once again, don't tell them they got heart problems. You may give them a heart attack, right? Because of that startle response. But when you see this motion, when you see this this marking, understand what it implies, what it could mean, and then when you talk to people about that marking, do it in a way that's gentle and respectful and helps them feel good about it, right? That's your job, to communicate these things in a way that makes them want to get help or to be better, but doesn't make them feel bad about themselves. And that's always, let me just put this down a little bit. That's always the challenge as a face reader, is talking about these attributes in a way that doesn't destroy their self-esteem or install negative suggestions. Classical Chinese face reading, the way it's commonly taught, has a very strong negativity bias to it. Lillian, one of the reasons I love the fact that I had Lillian as a teacher was she would always try to find the good in every trait. And I really loved her for that, because she really, because again, if you understand how I've done it, I know, you can look at somebody and just cut them to the quick emotionally. So for those of you who need a way to defend yourself from bad guys, emotionally speaking, this will do it. Okay, so again, I'm just putting possible uses out there. I'm not condoning the use or misuse of them. It's up to you. Sean Polk is asking, how do drugs affect these signs? I think it really depends on the drug. I would have to look at your face before you started taking the drug, and then after a couple of months on the drug, look at the changes and see what's improved or not. Okay, going back to our 5 faces. So that's blood pressure irregularities. The next one you're going to see a lot if you're a healer. When you see diagonal, again, once again, here's the outer canthus, right? Now remember we said that sadness lines start at the outer canthus and then they migrate down this way. So you have sadness, you have sorrow, you have grief. When you see lines that actually, hold on a second. When you see lines that actually migrate along the outer edge of the eye, this almost always indicates some form of physical or emotional pain. But in this case, it's usually chronic. You'll see this acute, if someone's like just strained their back, you'll see them squint and you'll see these lines appear. But if there's no obvious injury and you see these lines, you're looking at somebody who's experienced a lot of pain in their life and they've never fully processed it out. They've never fully processed it out. Okay? So this, again, this can be physical or emotional. Right? Could be heartbreak, could be a back injury, a chronic knee problem. It could be anything chronic, and that's usually, I don't see these. It's interesting, really, because in the clinic, I was surrounded by people in pain all the time, and I never really saw a lot of this, unless I was unpacking trauma, and then it would pop up. But if you see this and they're not in any form of actual pain, but this marking is there, This is someone who's packed and stuffed a lot of pain. And here's the thing, it's just the act of talking about it may pry some of it loose. Okay? People are asking, what about the large, hold on a second. What about just large bags under the eyes? Is there any, yeah. We'll talk, when we go to the eye section, after we finish the facial map, we'll talk a little bit about bags under the eyes. Oh, there's one of the, DN is saying, hey, here I'm thinking that the facial lines are just old age. Now, hello, so much more than laugh lines. I'm beginning to think I'm not old, just emotionally crazy. Well, actually, DN, you're not emotional. Let me look at you guys face to face for this. You're not emotionally crazy. You're emotionally toxic. Now, here's what I mean by that. You remember how many you guys have heard me say several times that when you start unpacking these facial markings, the features change. One of Lillian's best friends and business partners and assistants was a woman named Kelly Harrington, who, if you get a chance to, she's trying to carry on Lillian's work. And if you get a chance to study with Kelly, I recommend you support her. You know, she's kind of she's partnering with Deirdre, her Lillian's other business partner. But they've kind of parted company with Lotus, and they're doing their own thing. So if you see them promoting a class, they have a lot to offer. But in one of Lillian's workshops, there was a picture of Kelly when she started training with Lillian, like 25, 30 years ago. And the woman looked like she was 40, 50 years old, and she was in her 30s. Kelly is now in her 50s, going on 60, in her 60s, and there's not a line on her fucking face. She's done so much clearing, and she looks like she's in her 40s. I had no idea she was as old as she says as her birth date. Because as you clear the emotions connected to the facial markings, the face gets younger. And this actually jibed with a theory that my wife and I had. We actually formulated this over 20 years ago, that physical aging was actually more a result of emotional toxicity than it was chronology. And from 15 years of working with chronic illness and unlocking the emotions and watching people change right in front of me, I can tell you that from an experiential basis, most of our aging is emotional. It's not chronological. So a lot of the markings that you have that you think are just you getting old, not so much. If you follow the process, and again, if you've got the webinar package, you've got the tools to start, you can just start unpacking this shit and getting rid of those lines. And if you find something that you need help with, reach out to one of your colleagues or one of your brothers and sisters in Planet David, and they'll help you, because that's what we do, right? Yeah, presidents, again, again, when you get Lillian's book, there are pictures in the front of that book of couples when they first got married, and the same couple 25, 30, 40 years later, and they look alike. In their pictures when they first got together, they look completely different. Right? Your face is constantly changing, and it's based on the emotions and the environment, your internal environment and your external environment, that determines what your face looks like. And as you change the vibrational nature of your body, in other words, you clear the emotional darkness and toxicity in your system, the markings will change. But don't believe me. You don't got to believe it. Just help people clear their stuff, and you'll see their faces change. For those of you who are veterans of Planet David who've been through face reading, if you've actually seen someone's face change right in front of you, type it in the chat. Just so people can see I'm not making this shit up. Okay? While I'm doing that, let's go back to the face. Okay, so pain is, again, this is a weird one because you would think that you'd see it more. I don't. Every now and then you're going to see somebody with this marking. It starts at the outer canthus, and like a joy line, it starts to travel up, but it keeps going beyond the brow line. This is what we call excessive joy or mania. We recently had a president with these markings who was up at 2 o'clock in the morning texting and twittering. When you see these markings, these people can be bipolar, they can be manic depressive, They can be borderline personality disorder. They can have megalomania. They can be somewhat schizoid. This is joy gone bad. So this is good joy. This is unhealthy joy. And we're talking about, excitement. So if you see someone with these markings, be very gentle how you talk about it, but ask them if they have moments where they just have lots of euphoria and lots of energy and they have trouble sleeping. And you'll probably find out really, really quick that they're probably on some kind of med or were diagnosed and have stopped taking their meds. Right? But you'll see this a lot in people who have a lot of emotional problems, and usually on the manic side. Every now and then, you'll see somebody with these diagonal lines emanating up from the brow line. Now, what's funny is every morning I get up and I look at, we call these transformation lines. And these lines usually indicate somebody or are found on people who've gone through an extreme emotional time in their life and have emerged from it with a spiritual revelation of some kind, an understanding or a revelation about themselves or the world or their emotions or situation that really transforms them on a spiritual and identity level. An extreme example of that is what they call Buddha wings, which is lines that emanate up from the third eye, and they look like wings as they come up. From time to time, the Dalai Lama, when he's teaching and he's in a very high spiritual state, will actually show those kinds of lines. I've been doing this Buddhist mysticism class along with this Taoist or this Chinese energy medicine class, and then with sprinkle that in with some Taoist mysticism classes I'm taking. And so I'm doing a lot of clearing stuff right now. And I woke up this morning and I had this massive extra. I usually have one transformation line. I got another one a few months back, and now I woke up this morning. I have this massive one. You can't see it because I think Zoom takes it out. But I had a little one over here, and then one that was pretty prevalent here. And because the past 2 or 3 weeks I've been doing a lot of energy and emotional clearing, I had this massive line right up the side of my forehead. And that's usually an indication of somebody who's done some internal alchemy work. I don't know. Some people are having volume inconsistencies. I haven't done anything here. What about the creases and lines across the forehead? Those usually indicate life lessons that you're still in the process of, and most of that is between the ages of 15 and 30. So that's the age of 15 is up here, and then 30 starts down here. So when you see lines zigzagging down, these are usually life lessons and things you're processing, and they usually happened in your 20s. So again, there's a whole chronology to this, like I said, but that's not directly relevant to personality and temperament, so we haven't included it. It's part of Chinese face reading, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't directly relevant to personality and temperament. But if you're going to do trauma history or Shen work or spiritual work, Ming work or golden path work, that's when those markings become even more relevant. Okay, so just in case you've forgotten, remember that we do have a package where you can start to learn the ins and outs of all this, and it's a face reading for fun and profit home study course. It's a $1,497 value, and it comes with the Identity by Design hypnotherapy home study course. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. It comes with the vibrational healing home study course, $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. The People Reading for Fun and Profit Body Language Secrets program, a $997 value. The Lie to Me If You Dare How to Catch a Liar crash course for $97. And of course it comes with those super fast action bonuses, the 3-month NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Practice Group and the 11-year video archive. It's a $1,597 value. The Face Reading Level 2 Home Study Course, so $1,497 value. And of course the free VIP super ticket to our next Face Reading for Fun and Profit 3-day live certification event. It's a $3,447 value. We're going to include a video of the actual training you get to attend as part of that package. It's a total value of $12,126. All you need to do to get yours is one low installment of just $997, or if you need a little extra help, we can break that up into 3 easy installments for you of just $397. And all you got to do to get yours is go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. That's davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. Keep wanting to say that old Bay City Roller song Saturday night. Anyway, www.davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. Get yours now before they're all gone, because we only have 25 of those live event tickets available. When I log off, they go away. You can still get the rest of the package. That's good till 11:59 p.m. tonight, but the actual VIP super tickets are they go away. So, all right, let's get back to face reading for fun and profit. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to start down the center line of the face, and this is when we call this the river of life, and that's more goes to the Jing training. We're more on the Qi training right now. So the first marking I want to talk about is this double line here. This double line indicates a high degree of irritation, annoyance, or impatience. Okay, so these people are almost always in a hurry. If they're data driven, they can be very terse. When they come to a stoplight, they start gunning the engine when the light starts turning yellow, or what have you. So very easy to see. One that tends to, and there was questions about this, what I see a lot of times is when people have learned to manage this. In other words, they realize that they're prone to irritation or annoyance or impatience, and they've learned to manage it. You'll see a third line start to manifest. So when you see 3 lines, this is indicative of somebody who was very impatient, very prone to annoyance, but they found a way to manage it. They found a way to be less, to let it manifest less. Okay, and Lillian used to say they learned how to manage it better. But the one everybody's asking about is the infamous single line. Right? Now, in my world, there's 3 varieties. This line comes in 3 varieties. You have a thin line, which is known as a suspended needle, a thicker line, which is known as suspended sword, and then a really thick line, which I have lovingly called the suspended bazooka. Right? And you've met people like this from time to time. You look at the center of their head and it looks like somebody took a chisel and just dug a big old trench right down the center of their forehead. Now, regardless of what size the needle or the marking is, they all tend to indicate the same thing. This is somebody with anger and self-sabotage issues. Now, let me explain that before people go off the deep end. This marking represents somebody who, at some point in their life, their boundaries were violated. They got angry. They pushed back. They expressed that anger. They let it out. And the repercussions of expressing that anger were so traumatic that they made a subconscious decision to never let that out again. And so, on the surface, that seems like a good thing. But one of the things you understand is this particular part of the face is related to the wood element of the body. The wood element of the body is the achievement element, the achievement energy. When you want to accomplish something or you want to create something and see something through and go to the highest level, it's your wood element that allows you to do that. It motivates and inspires you. It's also the part that feels anger because it's being hindered by something, and so It tries to, it likes to compete. Okay? So when you see this marking, what's actually happened is that person has taken their reservoir of energy and cut it in half. And they've literally said, I will express this much energy, but this will never come out. And what happens behaviorally and vibrationally is it manifests as either a form of self-sabotage or stopping. In other words, this person will embark on a new career or a new field of study, and they'll do really, really well, and they'll get to a certain level and they'll lose interest. Or they'll get to a certain level and something will happen that they start over. So, and something else. So a lot of times these people are jacks of all trades, right? But they only get to a certain level of attainment in that field before they just stop. And that's usually where they've reached that we call it a governor. If you guys have ever rented a car, and like especially the U-Hauls, like if you try to step on the gas, it won't let you go past like 55 miles an hour, even though the speedometer goes up to 90, because there's a block that won't let that vehicle go any further. It won't give it any more power. Well, that's what this is. And so this particular trait tends to manifest, Jeffrey says, it's like you know me, tends to manifest as achieving to a certain degree and then blowing it up, or achieving to a certain degree, losing interest, starting over in something else, becoming really good at that, losing interest, starting over in something else. The other behavior that I have noticed with this is there tends to be a strong desire for approval in these people. So they will tell you about how they've solved problems for other people and accomplished all these great things. And again, just from watching, what I feel that they're trying to do is they're reenacting the original traumatizing event. And here's what I mean. Lillian taught me that when you see this marking, it's almost always the etiology of it, the root of it, is almost always anger between a father and son, or between that person and a dominant masculine figure. Whoever had the masculine role in that person's life, that's usually the trigger for that anger. So think of it this way, and it could be mother-daughter. If the mother is actually the more dominant and masculine, it could be directed at them, right? But a child and their parent get in an argument. When boys get to a certain age, they start challenging their fathers for dominance because they're 18 now and they know more than their dad does. And if you grow up in an old school family like me, you get up in your dad's face. Your dad says, "You mouth off to me again, and I'm going to teach you some respect, boy. You don't do that in my house." "I will too. You my house, my rules." "Well, I'm not going to play by your rules." And he grabs you by the scruff of the neck, throws you out on your ass. Right? Right? Strong anger. Right? And what happens a lot of times is, and again, this is just from observing people. This is not something Lillian taught me, but I spent a lot of time looking into the hearts and minds of thousands of people all over the world. Part of it is that person is going to keep looping through those kinds of dynamics and relationships. But because they made a decision to never express their power beyond a certain level, they're always going to stop short of their potential. And they're always trying to regain the approval of the person that they expressed anger at. They're trying to win they're still trying to win the argument in their minds. And so a lot of times, these people have a really hard time apologizing or admitting that they were wrong. Okay? Not saying everyone with that marking is that way, but it happens a lot. And they're all aspects of the wood element. Okay? Because wood elements don't like to back up. They're full speed ahead. Right? Called Forth says, "My mind is blown." Well, I'm hoping this is useful. Now, the question was asked in the chat, how do you get rid of this? You gotta fix your shit. You gotta go in, you gotta find the initial sensitizing event, you've gotta vent the emotional charge, and you've gotta forgive. You've gotta let go of that anger. Okay? So when you see this, that person has internalized anger, and that anger is connected to a block that's holding their power from ever being fully expressed. So they'll always cut themselves off from their full potential. Right? If you want access to that power, you got to clean it up. Okay? I'm getting a lot of wows in the chat, so I'm getting really curious as to what you guys are coming up with. But was this helpful? How to inspire others? Let them know that they're not broken. Okay. There's a couple more markings I want to look at. Now the next marking I want to cover, I'm going to teach you what Lillian taught me, and then I'm going to extrapolate a little bit on what I've discovered. So many times when you're doing therapy even if you're not doing therapy with people, you'll see people with lines that extend diagonally down the bridge of the, that's too big. You'll see lines that extend diagonally. They actually look more like they're going down this way. But that's just how she rendered it here. When you see these lines, Lillian called them disempowerment lines. But I have a different name for them because I don't think that disempowerment actually conveys the behavior. So I call these appeasement lines. And these are also the result of boundary violations, and a lot of times anger. But they manifest differently. So in this scenario, you've got somebody who is trying to exert, their boundaries have been encroached upon in some way, and they're fighting back. They're pushing back. They're giving it everything they got, and they cross a line and they get dramatically punished for releasing that anger. And as a result of that punishment, they make a decision to never get that anger or let that energy out again. Okay? Remember, what you don't express stagnates and toxifies. Okay? The reason you're sick isn't because of what you're expressing. It's because of what you're not expressing. Right? I can tell you this, that we live in a culture that is conspiring to give us chronic and terminal illness, because it's teaching us we're not allowed to say certain things, we're not allowed to feel certain ways, we're not allowed to have certain thoughts, and so we stuff them. And anything that we don't express, we repress, and anything we repress stagnates, toxifies, and becomes turbid and creates health problems. Okay? You don't gotta believe me. Right? Spend a couple of years as a hypnotherapist unpacking this shit. Can I expound on this? Stephen, I've expounded on this to you multiple times. Stephen is one of my mastermind members, who I haven't seen in a long time, just saying. But I'm happy to expound on it when we're not on a schedule. Judy is saying, hold on a second, let me open this up a little bit so I can see. Lines between the eyes. Yeah, so the lines actually come down. These lines manifest, let me go back to the screen. These lines manifest when somebody has violated your boundaries and you draw a line in the sand, you push back, and when you push back, the person you're pushing back against pushes back even harder, and instead of continuing to fight, you start to try to appease them. You try to make it better. You try to make the problem go away, right? How many people here have ever seen the show All in the Family? It was very popular in the 70s. It would never be played on the air in our pseudo woke culture. But if you ever want to see a shining example of appeasement, look at Edith Bunker. Everything about Edith Bunker's behavior was to make Archie feel better, was to make him not angry anymore. And so when you see people coming into your clinic, or you're dealing with people who have markings down the side, what you're looking at is somebody who has had their boundaries violated. They tried to fight back. And when they tried to fight back, they were met with even more overwhelming force. And in order to survive, to make the problem go away, they said, okay, whatever you want, just don't hit me. Or whatever you want, here's your dinner. Right? It's okay, Archie, I'll make it better. We'll do better next time. Right? Again, she's a caricature. But that's the behavior. So you'll see it a lot in abuse cases. Domestic abuse, child abuse, narcissistic, Machiavellian type behavior. You'll see. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if predators actually look for those markings subconsciously for victim selection. Right? Because again, these are people who, when push comes to shove, they'll put up token resistance and then they'll cave. Right? So a lot of what you'll be doing as a therapist is cleaning out that shit and building up that sense of identity and that ability and willingness to push back and fight. But it's very, very different manifestation, even though they have very similar triggers, right? Boundary violations. What is DN saying here? Hold on. Delia Knowles is saying, so basically what you're saying is that by not coming to terms with your shit, your emotions stagnate, manifest, and will rot your soul, so to speak. Yeah. Well, it won't rot your soul. Your soul is above all this shit. It's your acquired mind and your physical and energy bodies that will do the rotting. Your spirit body will suffer. But your soul is above all that. Your soul is the eternal part of you. It's detached already. It understands the big picture. So it won't ever be affected by this stuff. In fact, that's one of the reasons why getting in touch with that soul level of yourself is so important, because the innate radiance of the soul can burn away and cleanse a lot of that acquired stuff. It won't always be pleasant on an energetic or a spiritual or a physical level, but that's the mojo. Some of you might have heard me say from time to time that there's magic in each and every one of you. You just got to tap into it and unlock it. This is how you do it. You get into that. You reach that soul radiance level, right? And it's on your face. Okay. What is the interpretation of so-called crow's feet? Well, it's either going to be joy or sadness. Okay. Gary's asking, what is the relationship between Qi and Shen? Shen, okay. You guys really want to know this? Okay. All right. I'll do a quick diagram so you can understand it. And you know what I'll do? I'll even do it using a diagram that you'll find in your Identity by Design manual so you can understand it. Hold on a second. I gotta actually find the notes first. I wasn't planning on doing this, which is why it's taking me so long to find it. This will work. All right. This is actually from my How to Reprogram Your Subconscious Mind webinar. But one of the things you'll see in your Identity by Design manual is this map. How many of you guys have ever seen this map before? So this center core right here is known as your Taiji pole. It is actually when your soul enters your body, it enters through this tube, and then it emanates and it creates 3 levels of body. So it will create a spiritual body, an energy body, and then of course your physical body, right? So your spirit is actually, you know, somewhere up here, but it connects and fills in this way. So you have higher levels that you're connecting to, right? But this is detached. This embodies, and then through it creates the first body, which is all about thought and intention. That spiritual or Shen body starts to pull together energies related to certain elements, and following the spirit's blueprint, the energy body starts to create a denser physical shell with all your fascia and all your meridians and all that stuff that we call the physical form. But all your crap is actually here. It starts here, and then as it gets more and more energy, it pulls more and more elements together that eventually form a physical component. This is why when we point to where we feel it, reach out and touch it, guess where we're at? You're in your spiritual body. Because you're using, one of the things you need to understand is that information flows both ways. Information flows from the spirit to the physical, but it also flows from the physical to the spirit. It's 2 ways. And this is why spinning and color breathing and magic frame all work, because it integrates and activates all 3 bodies simultaneously. It's it uses all the same approaches that classical ancient Chinese medical qigong practices use, but it does it in a way that's actually faster than the classical ways. Right? We're using the same elements, if I can use that word, but we're doing it in a different process. Right? But once again, there's a structure, right? As everything becomes more embodied, it becomes more real, and then it goes away, right? So that's another way for you to actually look at your proprioceptive grid that we talked about, and you'll learn about it in your Identity by Design course. Okay. So Martha's asking, when you say spinning, are you talking about literally spinning physically? No, well, yes and no. You're not spinning your physical body, but you're actually spinning the energy connected to the body feelings that you have. If you go to the YouTube channel, Martha, and you type in instant emotional healing or instant emergency pain relief, you'll learn energy spinning, you will learn color breathing, and you will learn magic frame. We call that the transformational triad. It's an intrinsic part of the Identity by Design system that you'll be learning in your package. But this is the theory that explains how we're doing what we're doing. But you're the first group that I've ever shown the overlay between the proprioceptive grid concept and the 3 bodies of the 3 energetic bodies and the soul. So you're welcome. No, don't thank me now. Just go www.davidsnyder.nlp.com/face and you can have it all. So did that help? Did that help you guys make sense of the structure of things? Oh, Maria says, thank you, already did. Very cool. Very cool. Eric Weber says, and this is why I keep coming to these. You're very welcome, right? Again, I've known this for a while. No pun intended, I keep some things close to the vest because a lot of people just aren't ready to make those connections. They're coming in, especially if this is your first time in Planet David. You're looking for stuff that'll help you in the concrete world, you know, and so you're already kind of skeptical because you don't know this dude in the vest and why he's there. And I start talking about spirit and vibration and astral this, and he's like, "Oh, I'm out of here," right? So we try to keep things very, very practical for you, so you can go out and get a result right away, and you can prove these things to yourself, and that lays a foundation for another layer of training. You're much more open to each progressive layer, and it makes you much more complete as a self-actualizing human when you do it that way, instead of having these gaping holes in your knowledge base, right? right? So anyway, that's about all I have to say about that. Maxine says, I paid for the class. Can I take it again? Which class are you talking about, Maxine? All right, I'll let it. I'll make sense. All right, so I have time for a couple more things. What would you guys like to know about? I can't stay on more than 10 or 15 minutes, but just before we get into the last piece, let me just remind you, this is last call for those of you who want to come to the live training. And trust me, if you like what we're doing virtually on a free webinar, you can imagine what we do behind closed doors. Yes, of course you can come to this training. Energetic ways to clear baggage. All right, transformational triad, energy spinning, magic frame. 90% of everything that you're gonna pull up, if you can point to where you feel it, you can change it. Those 3 techniques in multiple sequences will eliminate just about everything. Call Stephanie, 858-282-4663. Okay. So once again, let me remind you what you're getting when you grab this package. Once again, you're going to get the Face Reading for Fun and Profit Home Study course. It's a $1,497 value. You're going to get the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study course. That course has everything I've just talked, everything you're seeing on this, that we're seeing on the screen with the grid and the arrows and stuff like that. That's all in your manual, right? The overlay of the three bodies. Sean, I do not have courses on Qigong, although vibrational influence would be my equivalent of Qigong. So your vibrational healing course is actually a good primer. There will be other energy courses coming out, probably 2023, 2024, that are more energetically oriented. I have to start a whole different energy training silo beyond just vibrational influence to encompass all the things I now know how to do. So yes, it's a great question, and there is stuff coming. David, what does it mean when a person's left eye is drooping? It usually means criticism. Left eye, I believe, is father figure. Criticism, I think left eye is, yeah, I think left eye is criticism from a male figure. So it's usually father, husband, best guy friend, or whoever has the dominant masculine role in your life. And then eventually that external criticism becomes self-criticism. Horizontal line on the nose bridge is indicative of either blood sugar issues or thyroid issues. If you have a partial, if your eyebrow hairs start to fade about halfway across, it's almost always thyroid. So anyway, let's go ahead and finish this. So you're going to get the vibrational healing course. It's a $1,497 value. People Reading for Fun and Profit, $997. Lie to Me If You Dare Home Study Crash Course, $97 value. And of course, the 3 fast action bonuses: NLP Power Mastermind Practice Group Trial and the 11-year archive, $1,597 value. Face Reading Level 2, $1,497 value. And of course, the free VIP super ticket to Face Reading Live certification, January 23rd and 24th, 25th to the 27th, or in December. Plus, you get a bonus copy of that video. It's a $3,447 value. So the total value of this package is $12,126. You can get it all. And again, if you liked even a little bit, if you found even a little of this to be relevant to you, I encourage you to invest in yourself and level up your life. Invest that $997 because you deserve it. You're worth it. Or make 3 easy installments of $397. And all you got to do is go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. That's davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. One more time with feeling, www.davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. Remember, if you're calling and the line is busy, leave your contact information, because as long as you leave your contact information and we can get back to you, you will qualify for bonuses. If you do not leave your contact information and you call us tomorrow, you will not qualify for the bonuses. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. Remember that these fast action bonuses go away when I click end the webinar. The rest of the bonuses are good until 11:59 p.m. tonight. So if you want to mull it over It's worth it, just for those 5 bonuses, it's worth it. But if you really want the biggest bang for your buck and you want to get live with me, then by all means, jump in now, invest that $9.97, break it up if you need to, and go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. It's just the tip of a very, very large iceberg, and we're going to show you the fastest way to get from where you are to where you want to be. Let us help you help yourself. Okay? Teresa says, but wait, there's more. Yes, there is. There's always going to be more, because I'm not done yet. And as long as I'm not done, the products and the courses will keep stacking, right? And it turns out that a lot of the challenges and questions I have, a lot of you guys have too, and I'm driven to find those answers. So as long as you're part of Planet David, you'll eventually get access to those too. So, all right, that being said, let me go back over the chats. What did you guys wanted me to cover? What about deep straight lines that go straight across the forehead? All right, this is the second or third time that people have asked about this, so let's go ahead and look at it. Where am I at here? Hold on a second. Okay. So when you're looking at face reading, here we go. So the lines you're talking about are lines that tend to zigzag across. Now some lines go all the way across. Some lines go partially across. Okay? When you see lines that go all the way across, this indicates a life lesson that you've learned, that you've completed. Incomplete lines indicate stuff you still haven't finished yet. Stephanie May O'Connell from Australia is trying to make a purchase, but she can't get in. Can you reach out and help her? Thank you. So that's what that means. Now, just so we have reference, let's go ahead and look at the age maps. And again, this is not something that we would cover in the personality and temperament training, but it is something we will cover in depth in the lifestyle, health, and trauma resolution training. These are age maps. A woman's age map begins on the right side of her body, moves to the left side of the body, and then continues down the center. A man's age map begins on the left, moves to the right ear, and then comes down the center. So the way I teach people to remember this, and again, please take this in the spirit with which it's intended. Women are always right, and what's left are men. So if you want to start looking at age maps and things of that nature, they begin on diametrically opposed sides. Females on the right, men on the left, males on the left, and they both come down center, but they're opposite of each other on the center. So if you look at this, and again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the age maps, but I just want you to show you 18, 17 here, diametrically opposed here. So my recommendation, if you want to do age markings, is you just remember that, and this is what I did, is that 15 to 30 is here. So any markings you see in this area are almost always in the 20s. There's a couple that are 89, 88. So if you have markings in this area, you may live to 88 or 89, right? So that's what when I look at these lines going across, that gives me a pretty good indication of when they happen. Okay. In fact, when you look at somebody's ears, you can actually tell when a person's siblings were born, because again, the Chinese systems start at conception, and Western systems start at birth. So when you're born by Asian standards, you're already a year old. If you look at markings here, this will tell you if you had any kind of problems during birth or in utero, and then anything that happened in utero will be in here. And then if you go along the outlines of the ear, if you see places where there's an indentation or a thinning, these are often indications of times when a person's siblings were born. So the mother will never mark when she's going to have a baby, but her children will always mark what year that their brothers and sisters are going to be born. It's really weird. It gets kind of woo-woo, but we've tested this over and over again, and it's just fucking right more often than not. So anyway, was that useful? If you guys enjoy that? Again, for those of you who want more of your questions answered, reach out to us through our. You're very welcome. Reach out to us through Stephanie at NLP Power, 858-282-4663. In the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, again, one last time, that package goes away when I log off. It's an amazing course. It will change your life, and you will never, ever look at people the same way again. On another note, if you're big fans of my friend Chase Hughes and his behavioral stuff, the face reading stuff works hand in glove with everything he's doing in the behavior system. So it synergizes with everything, right? So in the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it comes the time we have to say so long. I love you all. Thank you so much for spending your night with me. I sincerely hope you got some value. Go ahead and click those links. Join the club. Join the family. And let's become the best version of ourselves humanly possible. Good night. God bless. Click the link. I'll see you next time.